I'd like to call the July 6th regular meeting of the Zoning Board of Adjustment to order. The meeting will be, I'm sorry. The notice requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act have been satisfied by the placing of a notice of this meeting on the bulletin board at the municipal building, filing same with the township clerk, and transmitting same to the Hunterdon County Democrat, the Courier News, the Star Ledger, and the Trenton Times. Roll call, please.
Chairman, Mr. Roger Aarons.
Here.
Vice Chairman Cynthia Schaefer.
Here.
Mr. Steve Farcio. He is asked to be excused. Mr. Randy Block.
Here.
Mr. Jim Ferrero.
Here.
Vice Chair Pro Tem, Mr. Rasul Damji.
Here.
And our newest member, Ms. Lindsay Cool. Here.
Could I hear a motion to excuse Mr. Farsi?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Was that Jim?
Yes.
Chairman, Mr. Roger Aarons.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Cynthia Schaefer.
Yes.
Mr. Randy Block.
Yes.
Mr. Jim Ferrero.
Yes.
Vice Chair Pro Tem, Mr. Rasul Damji.
Yes.
Wait, 1, 2.
And can I, Mr. Chairman, can I just say I swore in your newest board member, Ms. Cool, before the beginning of the meeting. And congratulations. And it's nice to see we're up to 6 with Farcio. We'd have 7 and hopefully we'll be more soon.
And Ms. Lindsay Cool.
Okay.
Yes.
Announcements. There are no comments other than the one Mr. Drill made, and I want to welcome our newest member here tonight.
Roger, I'm just gonna do the board professionals real quick.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Board professionals, Township Planner, Mr. Jeffrey Baccarella,
He's here.
Board Attorney, Mr. John Drill,
I'm here.
Board Engineer, Mr. Mark Katriniak,
Here.
Board Stenographer, Ms. Jackie Clapp,
Yep, she's here.
and the following have asked to be excused. Landscape Architect, Mr. John Morgan Thomas, Traffic Consultant, Mr. Jay Troutman, Board Planner, Ms. Jessica Caldwell.
All right. There are no other comments, announcements. Do we have an update on the township website?
Yes, so Jeffrey has been meaning to update the board pages and I finally had time to. So if you go on our board pages, I've listed the members on each board, the professionals for each board, the term, their terms, they're not 100%, just a little bit more time. And I was able to set up a YouTube channel. So now any board meetings from the future, from now on, will be posted within a couple of days. So then you guys have access to it. At the bottom of the page, there's pretty much an FAQ on how the boards work, just so everybody's aware. And then if they have any questions, they can contact me. And I am working on having a tab for future applications. The site plans and other materials will be available for residents here.
All right.
So thank you.
Okay, can I ask, is Ms. Cool, she was appointed as an alternate member or a regular member?
I have here by
Regular.
the resolution that was adopted this year that she would be an alternate.
So we're down one alternate and we're still down a regular member? Is that
In that
correct?
case, yes.
Okay,
Doesn't make sense.
I know.
She should be a regular
Well,
member.
I know, but that's not for us. That's, the chairman might want to talk to the mayor.
All right, I will do that. All right, may I remind you, we also need to update terms of office with the state. The state
That
is,
I have no,
okay, well, our clerk,
um,
our township clerk can do
yes.
that. So if you would please speak to her, that would be much appreciated.
Mhm.
According to the state, my term expired in 2018.
yes.
All right, and a report on site visit to Five Birds Farm. Jeff?
So right now, there's one scheduled visit for the 13th. And if any of the other board members want a site visit, just let us know and we'll contact the owner, the applicant, and set it up.
Jeff,
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm a little behind. There's a scheduled site visit for the 13th.
Yes, so right now there's 3. And unfortunately, we can't have a quorum, or we'll
It's
have
maxed
to.
out. It's maxed out.
Got it.
So,
We'll have to set up another.
yeah,
Okay. Yes,
Mr. Chairman. We have three people.
it's already been discussed. You probably didn't hear. They're going to set up another meeting. So, okay. All right. Also, distribution and correspondence. Jeff, would you like to address the situation with Van Druff?
So with Van Druff, we've met separately about possible changes in their stormwater. Are not scheduled for today, but they are requesting an extension to a future date. We have not received that, but until they revise the plans, it's dependent on that. So once we receive that, the plans will then, it'll be reviewed again and then scheduled for another hearing.
Okay, thank you. We do have one piece of correspondence, and it's from Catherine Jankowski. It's dated June 28th, and it reads as follows. It's addressed to Taylor Vaughn, and it says, "Dear Taylor, the undersigned applicant in the matter pending before the Zoning Board of Adjustment for a minor subdivision and variance approval hereby consents to an extension of time for the board to act on the application until September 30, 2023. Very truly yours, Catherine Jankowski." So Taylor, that's going to be adjourned until then.
yes, I
Do you have a
will.
date?
I
She's
will-
Extended the time the
Yes.
board has to decide for them. You don't know
Un-
yet.
Unfortunately, it's been pretty hard getting a hold of her professionals, just knowing when they're going to provide updated plans.
All right, but do we have the time extension until September 30?
Correct.
Okay, very good. All right, we have a very full agenda here this evening. We have some minutes before us, the minutes of the June 1st meeting. And I've had a chance to review them. I don't know whether anyone else has been through them. I hope you have. I did have a couple of things that I noticed. Number one, on the first page under board members present,
June 1?
June 1, yes. It shows that Mr. Block was present, then it also shows that Mr. Block was absent. In fact, Mr. Block was absent that night, as I recall, and so that needs to be corrected. So Randy should be off the board members present. And then he was excused. Then also on page 3, under number 7, applications, it says, Chairman Roger Aaron's advised that when Attorney Matthew Flynn was advised that there would not be enough voting members for the meeting this evening, it says, comma, and what we need to put in there is, comma, Attorney Flynn. Then the sentence makes sense. Right now, it's a garbled sentence that makes no sense. So we're taking out the word and inserting the word Attorney Flynn. Okay. Anyone else have any corrections for those minutes? Could I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second. Thank you. Roll call. Taylor?
Chairman, Mr. Roger Aaron.
Yes.
Vice Chairwoman, Ms. Cynthia Schaefer,
Yes.
Mr. Jim Ferrero,
Yes.
Vice Chair Pro Tem, Mr. Rasul Damji.
Yes.
So can Randy actually second it if he wasn't here?
That's a good question. Since Randy was not here, Randy cannot second it. I will second
Start
it.
again, new motion.
Okay.
Oh, dang it.
I'll make a
We have
motion.
two members who are abstaining. Randy Block, who wasn't here.
Correct.
So we need a motion and a second from one of the four.
I'll make a motion.
And I will second that motion. Roll call.
Chairman, Mr. Roger Aaron.
Yes.
Vice Chair, Ms. Cynthia Schaefer.
Yes.
Mr. Jim Ferrero,
Yes.
Vice Chair Pro Tem, Ms. Rasul Damji.
Yes.
Hey, we also have the minutes of the June 15th meeting. Anyone have any corrections to those minutes? I'm going
I-
to make.
I do.
Okay.
Jackie, I'm sorry. I know I told you, but it's just for, on page 5 for C, it's the MSP hospitality, the hotel motel. And you put the application as minor subdivision. It's not. I don't remember what it is, but I know it's not minor subdivision.
So
That was when
that,
the appeal.
it's an appeal. That one's an appeal of the zoning officer's decision.
Denial. Oh,
Yeah,
Also
Sorry,
on
Jack.
page 2, under number 6, board members and council, A, comments. The fourth line reads, adjustment, and she will be joining them. Let's change that to the board. Please. Any other corrections?
Jackie, don't feel bad. They haven't gotten to my resolutions yet. I'm sure I'll have more corrections than you.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second that. Can I have a roll call, please?
yes. Chairman, Mr. Roger Aaron's.
Yes.
Vice Chairwoman, Ms. Cynthia Schaefer.
Yes.
Mr. Randy Block,
Yes.
Mr. Jim Ferrero,
Yes.
and Vice Chair Pro Tem, Mr. Russell Adamchi.
Yes. Thank you. All right. We have two resolutions to approve tonight. The first resolution is Resolution 2023-02, Interstate Outdoor Advertising LP. That's Block 40.04, Lot 35, the address 482 Highway 202, and that's BOA case 07-2021.
And this is the fourth draft dated June 26th. And Taylor, I know, has at least one correction.
Yes, on the title, it says 484 US Highway, US Route 202. It should be 482.
482, okay. Anyone else? We beat this one to death ahead of time, so in all fairness.
If there are no corrections, could I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I second that motion. Thank you. Roll call?
Chairman, Mr. Roger Aaron's.
Yes.
Vice Chair, Ms. Cynthia Schaefer.
Yes.
Mr. Randy Block,
Yes.
Mr. Jim Ferrero,
Yes.
Vice Chair Pro Tem, Mr. Russell Domji.
Yes.
I'm going to ask Taylor on both of these resolutions, first thing tomorrow, can you sign them, scan them, email them out to the
Mhm.
applicant attorneys and me?
Yes,
Thank
sir.
Okay, our second resolution for the evening to be adopted is Resolution 2022-15, Kim Budd, and it's Block 78.03, Lot 7, the address 78 Clover Hill Road. That's BOA case 10-2022.
This is resolution 2022-15. This is the third draft. That's interesting. Third draft dated July 4. And we also beat this one around a little beforehand too, but you never know. Maybe someone has something else.
Does anyone have any other corrections?
No.
Could I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I second it.
Okay, hold
Thank
it,
you.
hold it, hold it. Okay, Cynthia, I don't have you down.
No,
Oh,
I'll
that's right.
make
That's right.
the motion.
Okay, so the eligible, Aaron's, Farcio's absent. So we have Aaron's, Block, and Domji. Those are our eligible people to memorialize the resolution. Just so you know, you can memorialize the resolution with one. So it's not a problem.
I will make the motion to adopt these, this resolution.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Roll
Chairman,
call?
Mr. Roger Aaron's.
Yes.
Mr. Randy Block,
Yes.
Vice Chair Pro Tem, Ms. Russell Domji.
Yes. All right. Our first application for the evening is BOA case number 35-2021, James Radigan. The block is 76, the lot is 5.01, the address 21 Forest Drive. The application is for a time extension request.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Radigan, good to see you again.
Oh, good to see you, board. Jim Radigan, you want me to spell it Rattigan? And I would like to request an extension to August 17th for the inspection.
Yeah, and maybe Jeff can just explain. This is the board adopted resolution 2022-09 on June 16th, 2022. And this memorialized the approval of a D3 conditional use variance to allow an accessory apartment within the existing basement of the dwelling, and C2 variances to allow various decks and walkways that have been constructed and are attached to the dwelling to encroach into the stream setback areas. And condition number 8 on page 10 said that the applicant had to apply for and obtain zoning and construction permits for the accessory apartment and for the decks and related connecting walkways and stairs no later than June 16, 2023. That was within 3 months of the resolution being adopted, or apply for an extension if he couldn't meet that date. So Jeff, explain. Technically, he probably only needs a 1-week extension, but we're suggesting out to August 17th, just in case something happens.
So zoning permits were issued in early May, and construction permits were then applied for, but construction, they have a longer period to review. So my understanding is that the finished basement, it's still in review or has been completed except for the certificate of occupancy.
The certificate of occupancy is not going to be issued if the time has expired under the resolution. So that's why we're saying he's all done, but they won't issue a CO unless this date is extended. And just to play it safe, I support Mr. Radigan's suggestion, and so does Jeff, to grant the extension to August 17th. And further, if the board's okay with this, so as not to have to charge his escrow account to do an extension resolution, if you guys make the motion, let the minutes reflect that the time in condition 8, June 16, 2023, has been extended to August 17, 2023. And Jeff will talk to the guy, once you get to CO, it doesn't matter, and then it's a resolution that doesn't have to be drafted and he doesn't have to pay for it. That's my suggestion.
Any need to discuss this? Someone care to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I second that motion.
Roll call.
Chairman, Mr. Roger Aaron's,
Yes.
Vice Chair, Ms. Cynthia Schaefer,
Yes,
Mr. Randy Block,
Yes.
Mr. Jim Ferrero,
Yes.
Vice Chair Pro Tem, Ms. Rasul Damji,
Yes.
Ms. Lindsay Cool.
So Mr. Radigan, so you understand, no resolution, they just extended it to August 17th. So take care of your business. Jeff's going to tell the construction department tomorrow morning, correct?
Yes.
I should be okay, I guess. Yeah. Yep, okay, listen, thank you to the board, thank you to the, I guess, the legal. Thanks.
Thanks, Mr. Radigan. All right, our second application tonight is BOA case number 10-2021. It's ESCO Precision, Inc. The location is block 36.02, lot 14, 15, and 16. And the address is 7, 11, and 17 Royal Road. The application is for a time extension request.
So there's no attorney appearing. You. Oh, you're the attorney? No. Great. So there's no attorney appearing. In case there's questions, you have someone that we could swear in. But again, what the board's practice has been, unless there's some question that can't be answered.
We do have a letter, John.
Correct.
Yep.
But you have addressed extension requests without having someone make a formal appearance,
That's fine.
if you want.
Any?
So
any
again,
further discussion?
Jeff and I, what does the letter request? Can you just read the letter into the record?
Yes. It says, to whom it may concern, this is a formal request for extension of the July 6th deadline for resolution compliance on the site plan application for 11 Royal Road in Raritan Township, New Jersey. Due to unforeseen delays, we are requesting a 1-month extension to submit all final plans and obtain resolution compliance. Should you have any questions, I can be reached. And then he gives the telephone number, and it's signed by Ryan Elcoley.
Right. So Jeff and I spoke about this afternoon and just added an abundance of caution, because it seems like their engineer, and I'm not casting any dispersions, but had trouble understanding the compliance process. And this is condition number 1, which is the site plan revisions. And there were a number of revisions requested by the board as conditions. So Jeff and I are suggesting that you extend the date, July 5, 2023, for 6 months to January 5, 2024, just so they don't have to come back here again if they run into some more problems. I'm sure that you don't object to. Yeah. So again, unless anyone has a problem, that this one I would do a resolution, but this one is for site plan revisions, and I want to make sure there's a paper history in this. This is not like the last one where he has all his final inspections, it just needs a piece of paper. This one, they have not done these revisions yet, correct? Well, he may have done them, but they haven't been submitted.
Yeah.
I understand, but you have them in the car and we don't know if they are all satisfactory. So again, you don't object if they extend it instead of 1 month, if they extend it 6 months, right?
I think that's smart. Any discussion?
No,
Got to hear a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
second that.
Thank you, Randy.
Chairman,
Roll call.
Mr. Roger Aaron's.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Cynthia Schaefer,
Yes,
Mr. Randy Block,
Yes.
Mr. Jim Ferrero,
Yes.
Vice Chair Pro Tem, Ms. Russell Domji,
Yes.
Ms. Lindsay Cool.
Yes.
Thank you.
night.
All right, our third case of the evening is BOA case number 15-2022. The application Penn Partners LLC. The location is block 71. The lot is 8 and 8.01. The address 180 Highway 202 and 31 North. The application is for a D variance for expansion of carport and C variance relief. Ms. Kaczynski, welcome back.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Welcome, Ms. Cool. And it's great to be back. Happy summer. And here tonight on behalf of Mr. Beans, and we are here to present the application with regard to Penn Partners LLC. Just for the record, Kara Kaczynski, the law firm McNally, Yaros, Kaczynski and Lime. And again, we're here representing Penn Partners, who's both the owner and the applicant here tonight. The property currently operates at 180 Highway 202-31. And this is block 71, lots 8 and 8.01. It operates as a Fred Beans Hyundai dealership and a CarStar service center. It's located in your B2 commercial district and pursuant to section 296-114D6, new car agencies are permitted as a conditional use. What's also permitted as a conditional use pursuant to D5 are repair garages such as the CarStar service center. So some of you may know some of the history of this property, but I'll just quickly go through it just so we can establish
Slowly
it.
go through it.
Slowly go through. I said quickly, but I meant slowly. For the record. So in 2002, the board adopted resolutions 34, 35, and 36, 2002. And what these did was a number of different things. They granted conforming minor subdivision approval. They granted approval of a new automobile dealership building that would be used for Hyundai and Mitsubishi. It granted approval of 2 50-square-foot pylon ground signs, a 32-square-foot monument sign, 109 square feet of wall signage, and directional signage. So there were variances approved in pertinent part for this application tonight for 3 ground signs totaling 132 square feet, as well as directional and wall signage. Then come 2014, we have 2 more resolutions. We have resolution 6-2014 that granted preliminary and final major site plan and conditional use approval with some ancillary variance and design waiver relief. And this was for a Mazda and Hyundai dealership. And this approval granted approval of a second dealership building. So now in 2014, we have 2 dealership buildings as the property currently exists today. And that second building was used to sell and service Hyundai used automobiles, and other used vehicles. In connection with that resolution, the planning board approved variances for 2 ground signs totaling 122 square feet, along with various wall signage as well.
Quick question. The prior approval for the 3 ground signs and 132 square feet, what happened with them, with the 2014-06 resolution approving 2 ground signs at 122 square feet?
It was not outlined in the resolution.
Okay, well, after 2014-06, the resolution was adopted. Were there 5 ground signs out there or 2?
According to the resolution, there was approval for 2 ground signs. It did not say anything. I have the resolutions here. They were part and parcel of the application.
Right.
It did not indicate what happened to the other 3 ground signs.
Okay, well, what did the site plan show? Did it show 5 ground signs or 2?
It showed 3. I don't believe all 3 were constructed, but then in the change of the resolution, it was only, the 2014 was just 2 ground signs, but at the time, there was only
1 or 2 constructed.
1 or 2
you're saying?
constructed.
Okay.
But they never followed through with the approval.
All right, so as far as I'm concerned, once you have the approval for 2014 for 2 ground signs, it's 2 ground signs. Whatever approval you had for the 3 ground signs, even though the resolution didn't specifically say you're abandoning those are gone because the site plan showed 2. Now, just give me the resolution number just for history purposes for the 3 ground signs, 132 square feet.
So there were 3 resolutions. I lumped them all together. 34-2002. I believe that was just for the minor subdivision. 35-2002. And then 36-2002.
Now, the 2002 resolutions, they're from the planning board or the Board of Adjustment?
Planning board. Okay, and I can clarify. 35-2002 was your conditional use, signage variance, and waivers. 34 was the minor subdivision, and 36 was for construction within the floodplain.
Okay. Then the 2014 resolutions, planning board or Board of Adjustment?
Planning board.
Okay, so now pick it up from there.
Okay, so we went through resolution 6-2014, which is what we just indicated. That was the one that approved, among other things, the variances for the 2 ground signs totaling 122 square feet. We then moved to resolution 12-2014. That is also the Township Planning Board. And that was an approval to amend the ingress and egress driveways that was approved by the prior resolution in 2014. That's really all that did that's pertinent to this application. And then we fast forward to 2020. And we have resolution 2020-10.
And by the way, that's how you know the difference between a planning board and a Board of Adjustment resolutions. Planning board puts their number first, the year second. Board of Adjustment puts the year first and the number second.
That was one of those questions that I was wondering why that was different. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now I know that going forward. So resolution 2020-10, Board of Adjustment. And this brings us to where we are today. This was an application for the 2 principal uses on the property, which is the existing Hyundai dealership and the Car Star repair garage. What was granted in connection with that application was a D1 variance, and that was for the Car Star repair garage because that was the 2nd principal use on the property. And as you all know now, your ordinance does not allow 2 principal uses. And in order for them to exist on the same property, it needs the approval of a D1 variance, which this resolution granted. It also granted approval of a D3 conditional use variance for that repair garage that, as I indicated earlier, is allowed by your ordinance as a conditional use. But a D3 variance was required because that repair garage deviated from the regulations and standards in the zone, which were previously granted by the prior resolution.
So again, so stop for 1 second. So when something's a conditional use, it's not a permitted conditional use, it's not a prohibited conditional use, it's a conditional use. If all the conditional use standards are met, then it's permitted and it goes to the planning board. If all the conditional use standards of a conditional use are not met, then it's prohibited and it comes to the Board of Adjustment for a D3 variance. Which standards of the conditional use requirements were not met for that repair garage to make it come to the Board of Adjustment in 2020?
In 2020, it came as a result of general standards outlined in section 296-150A, which indicates that a use shall be not only a conditional use in the zone, but shall conform to all the requirements of the zone.
So that if a C variance was required, that meant that the conditional use requirement for a repair garage would not be satisfied because you have to satisfy all the bulk standards. So when the board granted the C variance for that, it also granted a D3 variance for the repair garage. Is that correct?
Correct, and that's what page 3 and 4 of the resolution indicates, that the deviation was from the regulations and standards in the zone, and those deviations were previously granted by the other resolutions. So they carried over and resulted in the need for the D3 variance for the repair garage. So now we're here tonight.
Oh, one more question, sorry. After resolution 2020-10 was adopted on October 15th, 2020, how many ground signs were out there? I believe 2.
I believe 2.
One for the Hyundai and one for the CarStar?
Yes, there was not any
No.
other.
Hold on.
No, there was.
Oh, stop.
Swear me.
Swear everyone.
I'm gonna sit down for this one.
Anyone who's going to be a witness, please stand up. All the applicant potential witnesses, please stand up and record it. Or raise your right hand. Does everyone swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth? Yes.
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 I do.
Can you each slowly and next to a microphone, identify yourself, spell your last name, and give your relationship to the applicant or the board as the case may be?
Sure. James Necker, Necker, and I'm the applicant's architect.
You are what? I can't hear you.
Say it again to the microphone.
James Necker, Necker, architect for the applicant.
Jackie, you hear that?
Yes, I did that time.
Okay.
Anthony Giannotti, Gennotti, Director of Real Estate Holdings for the applicant.
Mark Triniak, Board Engineer.
Jeff Eckerell, Township Planner.
Okay. Now, Jeff, you were saying.
At that time, there were 2 ground signs, one for the Hyundai, and there was one that was across the aisle. I don't believe it had a face to the sign, but it later got demolished.
Okay, so there's no sign for CarStar, no freestanding sign for CarStar?
That's correct. No sign for CarStar.
So there's
Microphone, sorry.
there's
No ground sign exists for CarStar at this time.
so there's one ground sign out there, but okay, there's one ground sign out there, but the last resolution adopted by any board approved 2 ground signs. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so we're here tonight to propose the replacement, the removal and replacement of the existing Hyundai sign that's in the front of the property, a new directional Hyundai sign to direct you to the service and the showroom area of Hyundai, and a CarStar sign that will direct you to the Car Star location and repair garage on the property.
Is the car star sign a directional sign or a freestanding sign?
It's a freestanding sign. We do have photographs and exhibits that we'll be able to show you.
And is the directional sign the one in the sign package? the 9
Correct.
square feet? Okay.
Correct.
So that's going to require a variance. Because it's over, the ordinance reads that it's 3 square feet.
Okay,
And I believe right now there is one because administratively I approved one back in the fall. But the one in the sign package is new.
that's correct. It will replace the one that's there now.
Okay.
Would you like me to hand out the exhibits now?
You know what? Why don't you, I guess you could start handing that if you want. I got a little
It's up to you.
more.
You just let me know.
Yeah, I got a little more. Okay, C variance for the directional sign. Okay, so that's what we're asking for tonight. So it will be a total of 3 ground signs. And the total square footage would be approximately 79.64 square feet. So if we recall back, and as Mr. Drill properly indicated, at the time that we're appearing here tonight, there were 2 ground signs approved at a total of 122 square feet. However, as the prior resolutions indicated, what had been approved was 3 ground signs at a total of 132 square feet. So just keep that in the back of your mind. The directional sign that we're looking for approval of is 9.79 square feet.
3 signs. The Hyundai sign replacement is 1 sign.
Correct.
I thought you said that the second ground sign was a Hyundai directional sign.
That's the second one.
Okay, and the third one is the car star sign.
Correct.
Okay, now you're talking about the Hyundai directional sign you already included with the 3, or you're talking about a different
That's
one?
in the 3, yes. But
Okay.
that's going to replace the one that was administratively approved.
Got it.
Correct. Also, we're seeking approval tonight of an open canopy to be attached to the side of the Hyundai building. That will measure approximately 406 square feet in size. And finally, approval of a vehicle display pad in the front of the property. We're here requesting amended site plan approval as necessary for these items. A D3 variance approval because, as Mr. Drill indicated, we needed the conditional use approval previously for the repair garage on the property. And now we're expanding the development that is there, so that carries over into the approval that we're asking
Right,
tonight.
because the additional things that you're seeking to have approved all require C variances of some sort. If they didn't, then presumably you could go to the planning.
Correct. We also need a C variance for the sign and the pad location in front of the principal structure and within the 75-foot front yard setback requirement. A C variance for more than 1 ground sign on the property. Again, there's 2 approved up until this point. We're looking to go back to the original 3. And as Mr. Vaccarella just indicated, we also need a C variance for the size of the Hyundai directional sign that will replace the one that's there.
Someone's microphone is having a problem. So hold on. Jackie, you hearing fuzziness or not?
I'm hearing fogginess.
That sounds better.
I'm not gonna lie, I think it's honestly just the way it transfers.
Okay,
The mic to the system.
okay.
So I have 2 witnesses for you tonight. I have Mr. Anthony Giannotti, who's going to be the agent of the applicant. He'll give you some information with regard to the operations and who he is and how things are going to be run on the property. And then we have Mr. James Necker, who is our architect. As you may recall, when we were here for completeness, one of the things that we asked this board to do was to allow architectural plans. Can I do anything to fix that?
You know what to do? Try sitting down and putting the mic down, because maybe,
Maybe that's it.
yeah.
So you allowed our architect to submit plans in lieu of engineering drawings, based upon what we submitted to the board was a minor amendments to the plans. So that's why we have an architect here tonight as opposed to an engineer. And you can direct all of your questions to him and we'll do our best to answer them. Unless anyone has any questions, I will start doing that. And I'd like to call Mr. Giannotti. Good.
Good intro.
Okay, Mr. Giannotti, can you just state your name again for the record and spell your last name?
Anthony Giannotti Jr., Geonnotti.
Right. And what is your relationship to or your position within the Fred Beans family of dealerships?
I'm the Director of Real Estate Holdings.
And as the director, what are some of your responsibilities?
I oversee construction, renovations, maintenance of all our projects, and general upkeep of the properties.
You have a lot of different hats that you wear.
Good.
Okay, just for the record, I know I referenced this in my opening, but what is the property currently utilized for?
Currently, we're operating a Hyundai store there, as well as CarStar Repair Center.
And the CarStar Repair Center, can you just explain to the board exactly what operations that involves?
It's a body shop that deals with cars. It doesn't have to be the cars coming from Hyundai. It doesn't have to be Fred Beans cars. It deals with cars in the community for repairs. Body repairs.
And these uses were previously approved by the township, correct?
Yes, they are.
All right, I'm going to show you, and John, you tell me if you want to mark any of the resolutions. I just want to put them all into the record, but they were submitted
Right.
on June
And the
27th.
board can take judicial notice of them, but do me a favor to make sure that, well, we have them in the board file as they came in with the application.
Correct.
Just make sure I have.
Okay, I can email them to you. I can give you these, whatever.
Give me a paper copy now, and then you can email them tomorrow.
So I was going to have him just read
Yeah, that's
some
fine.
information
Yeah,
into the
yeah, yeah.
record, and then I can,
He's a factual witness. He's not an expert.
Correct.
And you can represent, he's reading this thing, and as long as I have a copy and I can see he's reading it, no problem.
okay. No, you know what? I do have two.
You can take this. I have this.
Okay. So Tony, I'm going to show you copies of some resolutions. Just for the record, which resolution is this?
Resolution number 34-2002.
Okay. This one?
Resolution number 35-002.
Next.
Resolution number 36-2002.
This one?
Resolution 6-2014.
Next.
Resolution 12-2014.
And the last one?
Resolution number 2020-10.
And each one of these were submitted to the board for your edification on June 27, 2022 with the application. Tony, I'm just going to point you to page 4 of Resolution 2020-10. Could you please read the highlighted section here? Actually, from here on page 4 through page 5, and just slowly into the record outline. Yeah, just the highlighted sections.
Which resolutions are you reading from?
So this is from 2020-10. And I'm having him read into the record just so the board can understand what proofs and what findings you made with regard to the D3 conditional use variance that was previously granted. Because we are going to hear testimony that we feel that carries over into this application.
Findings as to the D3 conditional use variance to allow deviation from the conditional use ordinance to allow the proposed repair garage and the proposed addition to the existing building for the purpose repair garage. Proposed repair.
And that's the caption of the paragraph, right?
Yes, it is. The repair garage is a conditional use in the B2 zone. The conditional use is a permitted use only if the proposed use complies with all conditional use standards set forth in the ordinance. If even one conditional use standard is not satisfied, the conditional use is not permitted, but rather than requiring a D1 use variance, the D3 conditional use variance is the required relief. The applicant seeks a D3 conditional variance to allow the proposed repair garage on the property and to allow the proposed addition to the existing building for the proposed repair garage, because all the conditional use standards set forth in the ordinance section 1668-050 are not because all of
Are
the
not
conditions
complied with, period, right?
are not complied with. I'm
And let's
sorry.
take a break for 1 minute. This was the old ordinance. The new codification, Jeff, what's 16.68.050 in the new ordinance section 296 would be what? Okay, so now keep on reading.
Specifically, the repair garage deviates from section A of the ordinance, which requires compliance with all regulations and standard in the zone in which the use is located.
And as stated above,
The repair garage is a second principal use on the property, which is not permitted, and also deviates from section B of the ordinance, which requires that all applicable design and site plan standards shall apply. And the property required certain design standard exceptions, which were previously granted. The board findings as to the positive and negative criteria of the D3 conditional use variance are as follows. Positive criteria of the D3 variance. As to the positive criteria of the D3 variance, the board finds that the property remains appropriate for the previous
for the conditional permitted,
permitted repair garage, despite the design deviations, because exceptions were previously granted to allow it. And the board finds that the property remains appropriate for the conditional permitted repair garage as a second use on the property for the reasons set forth above as to the positive criteria of the D1 variance to allow it as a second use. The board further finds that due to the nature of the particular repair garage use and the arrangement of the building on the property sufficiently accommodates the use without overcrowding or overdeveloping the site. Negative criteria of the D3 variance. As to the negative criteria of the D3 variance, provided that the conditions set forth below are imposed and complied with, the board finds that the D3 conditional use variance be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and without substantial impairment of the intent and purpose of the master plan and zoning ordinance. The board's specific findings in this regard are as follows. As the first prong of the negative criteria, the board finds that having the repair garage on the site, which constitutes a second principal use of the site and also deviates from certain design standards, will not cause substantial detriment to the public good in terms of aesthetics, traffic safety, overdevelopment, or overuse of the site. The board finds and notes that
Notes in this regard that there's adequate parking on the property to serve both uses.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No problem. Pick it up as to the
As to
second
the
prong.
second prong of the negative criteria, the board finds that the deviations are reconcilable with, so will not substantially impair the intent and purpose of the master plan and zoning ordinance, because the use of the interrelated and the uses are interrelated and are better from a zoning perspective in this case, and based on the current design as a dual use, than if there were two independent uses developed on separate lots.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, so
And the reason you had him read that, so the board would hear its reasoning in granting the application in 2020, correct?
correct. And I'll tie that up in a little bow in a couple minutes. So did you hear my explanation to the board as to what we're requesting by way of this application?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and that was accurate?
Yes, it is.
Okay, I'm going to save you a little bit of testimony here. So directing you to the canopy that we're proposing. And why don't we? Okay, let me ask you, you know what, we could put up, let's try and find that canopy right now. Why don't we start with page 3, so the plans that are labeled Fred Beans Hyundai. We could go to the 3rd page of that. All right, so I'll go through a couple questions while that's coming
Just a
up.
quick, these exhibits that have been handed out,
Yes,
have they been submitted to the board file?
yes.
When were they submitted? Okay, so they were submitted as an exhibit. So how do you want to, these should be marked as an exhibit, but how do you want to mark them? Each page with a separate exhibit number or one exhibit number for each packet?
So it's really up to you. We could do it when we get there. They were submitted in response to the completeness letter, number 2. At least the plans that we're about to put up on the screen right now, but probably for purposes of the record.
It's
Let's
easier.
just
Let's
mark
mark
them.
each one that you refer
Correct.
to. Let's mark. So
Okay,
in this first packet, what page are we turning to mark as exhibit A1?
okay, so this was not a handout. The only thing that I handed out tonight was color versions of what had been submitted and what will be on the screen, just so everybody could see them, the signage package up front a
Okay,
little
so
more
this, all
closely.
right, so nothing in this packet has to be marked, in other words, as an exhibit. Is that correct or incorrect? Okay, these have all been submitted at least 10 days before tonight?
Correct.
Okay, this packet was not submitted 10 days
Yes, it
before,
was.
so this one was submitted 10 days before also?
They're just color. These are just color versions. So it's up to you.
Listen, if black and white was submitted before and these are now color, just dot the i's and cross the
Yep.
t's. Every color exhibit that you're referring to, let's mark as an exhibit.
Yep.
So what exhibit do you want marked as A1?
So we can mark the,
So take a look. Does Taylor have the correct one up there?
nope, these were submitted previously. These are already on file with the board.
John,
They're not ones.
What
that I-
she's showing now, that is the plans everybody already has.
You're not, okay.
These
I'm-
are not, we're not looking at right now.
Thank you. I thought we were looking at these now.
No. All
Okay, I
these-
get it,
Yeah,
I get
we'll
it.
get there, but
Yep, I get
they're
it.
just color so people could see the pretty shiny
Understood.
designs. Okay,
What's up on the screen?
so
These are the
correct.
plans.
Yep, correct. So these were plans that were previously submitted. This is page 3 of 4 of the Fred Beans Hyundai plans prepared by Jim Necker that you have.
May 15th, right?
These are,
And we're going to ignore the fact that there's yellow up on that
Correct.
sheet A3, but the ones that we have is all black and white. We're just going to pretend that's not yellow up there.
I don't know where that yellow came from, to be quite honest with you. I guess that just showed up in the email. Okay, So there's a canopy proposed by this application, correct, Tony?
Yes, there is.
Okay, and what will that canopy be used for?
That will be used by customers that will be picking up their cars that they just
And how frequently will it be used?
every car we sell.
I'm going to direct you now to a letter from Mr. Vaccarella. I don't know how you want to mark this, John. This is Jeff's letter dated July 3rd. Memorandum.
Okay, let's make it A1. This
Okay.
is, you have some extra copies of that?
Is this a report?
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
If it's a report.
It's just
It's
July
his
3rd
report.
report?
Correct.
Yeah, doesn't have to be marked.
Okay.
I thought there was some piece of correspondence that,
Nah.
no, okay.
I'm not trying to throw something random in there. All right, so I'm going to show you Mr. Vaccarella's letter dated July 3rd, 2023. And I'm going to direct you to photo number that's labeled number 1 on page 3. Have you seen that?
Yes,
Okay. And what is that a photograph of?
that's the alleyway between the Car Star building and the Hyundai.
Okay. And is that an accurate photograph of that area as it currently exists today?
Yes, it is.
And is that where the proposed canopy will be located?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so now I'm going to direct you to the screen and page 3 of 4 of the plans of Mr. Necker that's on the screen. Do you see a circled area between the two buildings?
Yes, I do.
And what does that circled area depict?
Canopy, that's what we're proposing for that area.
Okay, and that area is the same area that was depicted on photo number 1 of Mr. Vaccarella's letter. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And it's maybe a little bit difficult to see. Maybe I don't get my glasses on. Can you see the arrows that are emanating from that circled area on the plan?
Not too.
Do you know that there are arrows circulating from
I
that
do.
area on the
Yes.
plan? And can you just explain what those arrows show?
The arrows are going to show the egress path of the car after it leaves the canopy.
Okay, and could you explain how those arrows show and how the cars would exit via those arrows from the property?
They're just going to follow the directional arrow and get out to the front of the building and come out and just go right on. the street.
Will they be crossing any parking spaces?
Shouldn't be.
Put it this way, does it show that it's crossing over a handicap parking space?
Yes, it does.
And is this a different circulation path than if the car were to go behind the car store building?
Yes, it is.
I'm
This
gonna
is a
have,
much more direct.
and this is where Hyundai has asked for the car to be able to circulate through. I'm gonna have the architect testify a little more as to this issue. I just wanted to get that on the record that the photograph accurately depicted, and that's what the arrows are showing. Tony, will the installation of the proposed canopy, the signage, or the vehicle pad result in the need to hire any additional employees?
No, it won't.
So there's no need for any additional parking.
No, there isn't.
All right, let's go back to Mr. Vaccarella's letter. And we're going to look at item 13. Item 13 indicates that Mr. Vaccarella did a site visit and verified that there are 2 electric charging stations on site. Is that accurate?
Yes, it is.
Okay, it appears that one of those charging stations was installed without zoning permits. Were you aware of that?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so are you willing to take care of that as a result of any approval, or just willing to take care of that now that it's come to your attention?
Yes, now
Were
that
you-
I know of it, we'll take care of it.
Did you become aware of it when you read Mr. Vaccarella's memo, or were you aware of it before you read his memo?
Wasn't until I read the memo.
Okay, and looking at item 14, as well as photos. So item 14 indicates that there are vehicles parked along the south side of the Hyundai building and within the no parking zone. and that the vehicle should be parked in a designated space. There are photographs 3 and 4. Do those photographs 3 and 4 depict the vehicles that Mr. Vaccarella is talking about?
Yes, they do.
And are you willing to, and do you understand you need to relocate those parking spaces in connection with use of the property?
Yes, we do, and yes, we will.
Are they employee parking?
It's a mix of employee parking, cars that are being staged. Those kind of things.
I have a question. The picture on page 4, at the bottom of the page, we're actually looking from the rear of the building toward the front of the building. And the canopy is going to be located directly before that black portion of the building that is right up front. Am I correct? Okay, thank you. So does everybody on the board understand what I'm saying? This is where the canopy would be, right here on this picture.
Yeah, but to add to that, and to that picture, there are official parking spots that are shown in the picture that will be there behind the canopy.
Yes, correct. Yeah, 1, 2,
Right?
3, 4,
Is that
5.
correct?
Right.
Yeah.
And these cars. that
They're
you see
currently
in the
there.
Picture will be removed.
Right, but there are legal parking spots that are going to be behind the canopy.
No, they're there.
They're there now.
Yeah, they're there now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and these cars are legally parked there. So you have a canopy sitting in between legal parking spots in the rear and the front of the building, which you're gonna drive a car right into its front parking lot?
You're going to hear some more testimony from our architect as to why that is, but yes, you're absolutely correct.
Okay, fast and furious. Okay,
We're here, but thank you for pointing that out because you're absolutely correct.
okay.
And I just have a quick question back to photo number 1. There's a line of cars where the canopy is proposed. Are those display cars or they going to continue?
Better something for you to answer? If it, well, hold on. If it is something better for you, then I'll wait till okay, we can have Mr. Necker answer that.
And who's in charge of telling the employees of what conditions to comply with?
General manager of the store.
Jeff, could you say that again? I didn't hear you.
Who's in charge of enforcing what conditions can be
He's saying who on the site
Mhm.
is responsible to tell all the employees of what the conditions are of all the board approval so they comply with them. And the answer was the general manager.
General manager of the store.
Okay, thank you.
Can you keep going? Okay. Okay, that's with the letter. You're generally familiar with the prior approvals that we outlined in the resolutions, correct?
Yes, I am.
Okay, and the ones that were memorialized and the language that you just read from with regard to that 2020 resolution.
Yes.
With the exception of the proposed canopy, will any of the other proposed improvements, meaning the signage or the display pad, alter the manner in which the property will be utilized in any way as per those prior approvals?
No, none of that.
I don't have any other questions.
I have a question. I still don't understand the volume of how much this canopy is gonna get used. You insert that every time you sell a car, it will be used, but that doesn't give me the sense of the volume, and considering all the traffic flow questions, I will try to understand what would that be?
I don't know how many operationally we sell a month. We could find that information out for you. I don't know off the top of my head what that number is. Whatever cars that we sell in a given day, given month, are delivered through that canopy.
Yeah.
Right now, through the side area of the showroom.
Our experts, Jeff's number 3, item 3, That you're referring to my report. This is yours? Whose
No,
was this?
no, that's Jeff's.
mine. Yeah. And you had concern on number 3, and that's why I picked on the volume. Because I'm still not comfortable with that.
Jeff's item 3 says, the applicant is proposing a 406 square foot canopy area for vehicle pickup service. Overall operation and traffic circulation shall be discussed. And that's what board member Domji is asking to have discussed. He wants to know, yeah, right, how many cars a
So,
day,
yeah,
so are going to be coming through here? And he wants to get an idea of what type of traffic circulation or what's going to be interrupted or not interrupted.
Well, yeah, today, whatever cars are going through that area now being delivered without a canopy, you're not going to be increasing that number anymore by having a canopy there. So once I find that number out for you, it's not going to change that number. It's just that those cars are now going to be delivered through a canopy.
Right.
Right.
He understands that. He's trying to figure out, for example, how many times is a car going to have to go through the handicap parking space? Obviously, I don't, if there's a car parked in the handicap parking space and it happens once a month, maybe it means one thing. But if it happens more than once a day, it might mean another thing. That's what he's trying to get to the bottom.
I don't know if we have that number here for you tonight. But how long has the dealership been in existence? Since 2020? And your testimony is that the operations of the facility and the sale of the facility would continue in the same manner, irrespective of whether the canopy was approved.
I don't know if this is fair for me to ask, but you guys should know on average how many cars you sell a month, and based on that, you can give me some idea, right? But
Listen, maybe, right, maybe keep on going, but maybe you take a break and call somebody who knows, and then have the architect talk with him, because the architect is going to be presumably qualified as an expert. The architect's allowed to rely on hearsay information to give testimony. This lay witness can't rely on hearsay. So my suggestion is have a general manager, someone called by the architect on a break and find out, because otherwise you're not going to be able to get this thing decided tonight.
You do that.
thank you.
Ms. Kaczynski,
Yes.
before, are you going to address the pad as the next presentation?
Yes.
Or, so you're going to be doing.
I'm having trouble hearing.
Yeah, Roger, you got to go
I'm
louder
sorry.
into that mic.
Yeah, my question was, is Ms. Kaczynski going to be making a presentation of each one of the variances in order, so that what I'm driving at is I would like to see all of the things that Mr. Vaccarella has brought up answered. There are a number of questions here, and I think it's important that all of these get answered. And that will make me feel more comfortable with all of this. So I don't know what order you want to do that in, but at some point, I'd like to tick off from 1 through 14, if we could.
I can tell you, Mr. Chair, we have testimony on each one of those
Okay,
items.
fine.
Just everything's not coming from Mr. Giannotti, because he,
Realize.
again, the architect would be more appropriate to answer that, but
Okay,
absolutely, we know you want to hear everything, so we'll do our best to address each one.
okay, thank you.
Related to that, because it's the same issue I had. So far, I see 3 tick marks on my page. Number 8, number 9, and number 13 conditional. That will take care of it. Did I miss anything?
Now, you're on Mr. Vaccarella's letter?
Yes, yes,
So you're saying number 8?
because he said it complied, so I said, oh, fine, 8 and 9 are compliant.
The signage.
And then there's number 13, which conditionally was agreed that you guys are gonna take care of.
Yes, number 13, so I can tell you that. Or to some extent. And really, the rest of it is for the architect, and 13.
Yeah, so for 4, I'm not
And 14,
satisfied.
I'm sorry, and 14. So I would say 4, 13, and 14 so far.
Yeah, so for 4, just for the record, I still don't have any idea Okay, traffic, and the volume and all that. So to me, that needs to be addressed further.
Absolutely. That's what we're going to try to do. As soon as Tony's done testifying and answering questions, he'll go make a call and we'll continue to go on with the architect.
And for the record, what did you say about number 14?
And number 14, he had indicated that he will relocate those cars.
Board member questions for this witness? No. Board experts, question for this witness? No. Is there anyone in the public here on this application? People out there presumably on the next application? My guess, next witness.
And there's no members online from the public.
Thank you.
Okay, next I'd like to call our architect, Mr. Necker. Okay, Mr. Necker, could you just state your name and spell your last name again for the record?
James Necker. Could you bring the microphone pointing toward you? Thank you. That's great.
James Necker, Necker.
And could you give the board the benefit of your education, your licensing, and your experience, please?
Sure. Graduated from Penn State in 1973, and registered since 1976.
And that's in the state of New Jersey?
Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware.
And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Just wanted to make sure it was clear that you were registered in New Jersey. And your experience testifying before boards?
Not as much as you, but several years.
She's not supposed to be testifying in front of boards, though. She's supposed to just be representing her client.
But you have testified before boards in Pennsylvania and New Jersey?
Yes.
Have you
And
testified?
With townships.
Once before this township, more of my work has been in the southeastern Pennsylvania.
And did you testify before this board during the 2020 application?
It was doing, is that when we made parcel? Yes.
Hold on.
He's listed
On
there.
page 2, he's listed
Yep.
as the third witness before this board in the 2020 application.
Okay. And have you been qualified as an expert before each board that you've testified to?
Yeah.
I submit him as an expert in the field of architecture.
We will accept this individual as an expert. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Necker, were you engaged by the applicant as the architect in connection with this project?
Yes,
And how long have you been working with Fred Beans?
since 1990.
And we already have on the record, you were involved with the original approval of this site for Hyundai in 2020, correct?
Yeah.
And you were directly involved with the car store repair garage and Hyundai renovations approved by that application.
Two separate applications. Hyundai Garage was one with the addition, and then involved with the Hyundai renovation.
So you were involved in both of those?
Yeah.
Do you deal directly with car manufacturers?
Absolutely.
And just give the board a little smattering of some of the dealerships. that you deal with.
That's been my major field that I work in since 1985. So I've worked with all the big three, the Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler, but more recently Nissan, Toyota, Porsche. Hyundai has a big client right now. Subaru is really hot right now.
Thank you. And so in your workings with these dealerships, they do each have specific requirements for their buildings and their sites, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you deal directly with them to make sure that those requirements are satisfied.
I act as an intermediary between the manufacturers and the owner. The manufacturers give requirements that the owner have to meet, and I do the documentation to show how it will meet the manufacturer's requirements.
And so in essence, you are transmitting the needs of the dealer through the owner onto the plans for approval by the municipality. Okay, just very briefly, everyone knows the site. If we could put the second page, I guess that's probably the best one of their plans. Yep.
You're
Yep.
saying sheet 2 of 4?
Sheet 2 of 4, yep. Just so we can give an overview of the site itself. So just to give the board, just for the record, where the site's located, and basically what's on the site right now.
So it's on the east side of Route 202 and 31. It's about just shy of a 10.5 acre site, but only the front 25 to 30% was actually able to be developed. That part that was developed in 2014, I guess, when both buildings were on, is the same amount that we're working with now. There's been no increase to the impervious coverage, although we put that addition onto Parstar. So just what
Why
you
do
see
you
there,
say that, why is only 25 to 30% of the site developable? Are there environmental constraints?
I'm sorry, I really can't speak to that. I don't know. There's access problems. There's obviously wetlands that go through. I believe that there are parts of the property that are developable, but not contiguous with 202.
John, I can tell you, if we go back to the subdivision resolution,
Is the planning board one?
yep.
Which
So that
one?
would be resolution, I want to say 12 dash, nope. Hold on.
Minor subdivisions
Yep.
34, 2002.
Correct. That indicates that lot 8.01 that was being created was 10.402 acres with 6.5 usable acres. So that could be.
Okay, do you know what paragraph says that? I see paragraph 3 says, proposed new lot 8.01 consists of 10.402 acres.
There.
Paragraph 7 says there were a number of concerns regarding the amount of floodplain and possible wetlands on the property. The issues were noted but not resolved as part of consideration of the subdivision. So maybe it's not this resolution.
If I could clarify the plan, the sheet 2 that is up, there's depictions of extensive floodway limits, riparian areas, and transition buffers related to wetlands. There's reference notes on sheet 2 of your plan that refers to a 2014 existing conditions plan prepared by Redcom Design and Construction. It
And-
depicts the limits of what has it. Right?
And Planning Board Resolution 36-2002 permitted construction within the floodplain area. So I'm going to take a guess
That's where I'm looking to.
that there's stuff in here,
Not seeing it.
but put it this way, it's shown. So where did you get the 25 to 30% figure?
I was talking about the amount of area that's listed as impervious.
I'm having trouble understanding.
That's
you.
why
You got to speak into that
I'm sorry.
microphone.
right now we are around 25% impervious on this site. So that there's been no change, there's no change proposed to that at this point, but that's.
Here it is, paragraph 11 on page 3
which
of
one?
36-2002. Mr. Brokow, who was the then engineer, testified that the subject property has approximately 6.5 usable
There we
acres.
go. Yep, I knew it was there somewhere.
The usable acreage does not include floodplains, wetlands, and wetlands transition areas. And then it says the board, meaning the planning board, accepts that testimony. Okay,
Thank you.
You said it was 25%? It's more.
It's more, it's about, when I said about a third, there's 28% is impervious pavement.
yeah, but you testified that 25 to 30% of the site was developed. Maybe you meant 25 to 30% of the site was developed.
Develop, I'm sorry, yes.
Okay, because if the site is 10.5 acres.
I'm not hearing this at all.
Sorry, Jackie. Just for the record, Jeff took the microphone away from me. Yeah, if you believe that one, I'll tell you another one, Jackie. So if the site is 10.5 acres and 6.5 acres are usable, approximately 60% is usable and 40% is not. And your testimony is between 25 to 30% has been developed, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
In the rear of the property, I believe is farmland, but it's separated from the other parts of the front end of the property.
According to the zoning schedule on the plans you provided, you're showing approximately 35.36% existing and proposed coverage. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so the figure is what then, Mark?
According to the zoning schedule on the plan, it's 35.36% is the
All right.
existing lot coverage.
So is your testimony that the existing lot coverage is the developed portion of the site?
Yes,
Okay, so it's 35%, not between 25 to 30, correct?
correct.
So it is as noted on the plans.
That's permissible in the zone where it's 55% permitted. So they are under the maximum requirement for lot coverage.
Correct, thank you. Okay, so not to beat a dead horse, but could you just describe the existing development on the site?
So there are two individual buildings. The first building, which is now CarStar, was developed as an automobile dealership. The second building then replaced it, and when I got involved, once Mr. Bean purchased it, there was just a single dealership, and the other building had been vacant for a period of time, and was being developed into the CarStar building.
And on the screen right now is sheet 3 of 4 of your plan. Does that accurately depict what currently exists on the site?
Yes.
All right, so let's talk about now the existing site signage. There is signage that was, now this was not, I don't think these were submitted previously, right? These were just submitted
Are you
today.
talking about these?
No, I'm
No.
talking about what's gonna go up on the screen. This, I think,
No.
Mark.
Do we have copies of those,
No.
whatever they are? No.
No.
You
I
have
have-
paper copies for us?
I have a copy.
How many of those things that you have one copy do you have?
4.
It's up to you. I can go make copies, but it's on the other side of the building.
No. Put them up on the screen. We're gonna mark these, but you gotta,
I will. And for purposes of, you'll see what the testimony is. It's, so we're mark these as A1.
no. We put, yeah, correct. We're starting with A1. Yeah, actually, mark A1, A2, A3, and A4, and then show Taylor what you have marked as A1, A2, and A3, and A4. Then when you ask for something to go up, she'll know what to put up.
Well, it's just because they're already marked A1s,
Yeah.
2s, 3s.
Okay, so let's do this. Can you use the same markings that Taylor already has? Can you go up there and coordinate with her, please? Yeah. I was trying to see. Okay, cool. Great. All right.
Really. So what you're seeing up on the screen, is there existing building signage on the property?
Yes, there is.
Okay, and what you're seeing on the screen right now, is that one, is that the
Okay,
existing?
hold up for 1 second. So for Jackie's purposes, 4 exhibits have been marked, A1 through A4.
Correct.
Before you do anything else, can you give a oral description of A1, then A2, then A3, then A4, so Jackie can put it in the transcript?
Correct. Can Can you just describe what is on the screen and what has been marked as A1?
Certainly. That is the northern end of the Hyundai showroom, showing the sign at the corner, and the service drive is just off to the left.
And that is the existing Hyundai sign
Yes.
in that location. Is that going to be changed at all by way of this application?
No.
Okay, next photograph. Okay, this has been marked as A2. And for identification, what is that a picture of?
So that is the south corner of the Hyundai showroom building that shows the Fred Bean's name. It'd be the same corner that just beyond that is where the canopy will go.
And will that be changed at all by way of this application?
No.
Third one. Okay, what is that a picture of that's been marked as A3?
So on the left side of the showroom building is the service drive-in, where customers drop off their service vehicles. So that's with the service sign above those two garage doors.
And will that be changed at all by way of this application?
No.
And then the next one, A4. What's been marked as A4? Could you describe this?
That's an overall view of the front of the building with the service drive on the left side, the Hyundai sign and logo on the corner of the showroom, and the Fred Bean's on the far right.
So in essence, this is a compilation of A1, A2, and A3.
Correct.
Okay, none of which will be changed by way of this application.
Correct.
Will there be any additional building signage by way of this application?
The only thing that is missing at this point is we've agreed to put a large letter B, the way the site is identified, there's building A and B, particularly for the fire department notification. We have that in the plans, but we'll be doing the sign when the rest of the sign work is taking place.
Okay, but that was previously approved and required as a condition of approval, correct?
Yes.
And all these signs are considered wall signage, correct?
Yes, they are.
Okay, Mr. Chair, you want to?
Yeah, Ms. Kuzinski, we're coming up on 8:30. Our stenographer is going to need a break for about 5 minutes.
Sure.
I'm going to let you go until 9 o'clock, and then we have to be fair and let our next applicant. And folks are invited to stick around after 9 o'clock if you're not finished. And if they happen to finish before we're through for the evening, then we will come back to you.
Okay.
But in the interim,
Appreciate that.
during this break, can you have your architect speak to whoever he's got to speak to answer the question that was raised by Mr.
Tony's
Downing?
already on it.
Okay, but it has to, this testimony has to come.
Yes,
through the-
yes, sir, I will find out.
Understood. He's
Okay.
got to find
Okay.
somebody that knows the answer and then they'll have that conversation. I understood.
We're just going to take a break for 5 minutes.
Okay.
I'd like to call the meeting back into order. Ms. Kuzinski?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So I think we just got on the record that the building signage is as shown on exhibits A1 through A4 and will not change. Now let's move on to the signage that will change. So let's pull up page 3 of the plan. And Mr. Necker, what signage will or has been removed?
All right, on sheet 3 of 4. I can wait until you get it open, but it's directly in front of the Hyundai store. There is if you can see the hexagon that is the display pad, to the right of that, there's a note that says existing signage to be removed. That has already been removed.
Okay, and using the hexagon proposed display pad as a,
Hold on for a second, hold on. It says existing low sign to be removed. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Jeff, has that sign been removed?
Yes.
Okay.
so what is the other sign that is going to be removed as a result of the application?
all right. Can I just do something to orient people on the site? As you're looking at the plan, on the left side, which would be north end of the site, that is the way people enter this site. And on the south end, that's the way they exit. So it's a one-way flow through the site. So where the hexagon is for the
Yeah,
display
hold on,
pad,
hold on. Is there a north arrow on this plan?
uh, not on a sheet 3. No, there isn't.
But to orient the board, which is the direction of north on the plan?
There is on sheet 2.
Yes, the left side,
Which-
is
The left is north?
yes.
Correct.
Do you want a suggestion? I have extra plants. Do you want to put it up on a thing and point to it as you're talking?
I think I'm,
I just want to be sure if you guys can see.
so what I wanted to emphasize was that the left driveway is the in driveway and the right one is out. It becomes important when we start talking about view angles and that kind of stuff. But so on the in driveway, we have the display pad on the right side. On the left side is the existing Hyundai sign, which will be removed and will be replaced with a new pylon Hyundai sign at the same location.
Okay, and what is the approximate size of that new Hyundai sign?
That's 25 feet tall and it's about 7.5 feet wide.
About a total of how many
Well,
square feet?
the square footage of the sign portion of it is 21 square feet of the lettering box.
And this is depicted on page, okay, so now we are at,
Don't go there yet. The note that says on the left-hand side, the northerly side, it says, existing main Hyundai pylon sign to be removed. It can be replaced with new Hyundai pylon sign. What is the size of the existing Hyundai sign and what is the size of the replacement Hyundai sign?
we don't have the size of the existing Hyundai sign, but based upon the prior approvals, there were the 2 ground signs, each measuring.
Do you guys have a picture of the existing pylon sign anywhere?
It is in the brand book, that colored book that shows all the signs.
Yeah.
Looks like the second to last page shows that existing sign.
Yes.
Okay. That one's being removed.
Correct.
And you have a picture of the one that's proposed to replace it?
And that would be on page 3 of that same packet. And these are the colorized ones.
This one?
So
Mm,
page 3, so if you look at page 3, right here. It's a 25 foot by 7.
Okay, so you have anyone who can give an approximate dimension of the one that's going to be removed? Is it approximately the same size, larger, smaller? I mean, according to the resolution, I just can't tell. The one that's going to be removed is 52 square feet. And the new one that's going to go there says 21 square feet. So is that just? I'm trying to find out what's the square footage of the pylon that's being removed and what's the square footage of the pylon, the new one that's going to replace. Do you know that?
We know the information on the new one. I don't have any information on the existing one.
I don't know.
I mean, I would say that the prior approval, again, was granted up to, or at least based upon the resolutions, the 132 originally and 122 square feet, but what we're proposing does not exceed that from what I can see, depending upon how the signage is measured. Now,
Put it this way, if you put signage up and down the pylon, what's the total square footage you could have? It would be 25 feet tall, multiplied by approximately 8 feet wide.
I've got about 200 square feet.
Yeah,
But are we measuring that, or are we measuring, because according to your ordinance, it measures around the lettering.
correct.
Around the lettering.
which it is here.
Okay.
So earlier, you had compared 122 versus something like 79.
Yes, yes.
What
so
is
if
that?
So if we take, and when we go through each one of the proposed signs.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the cumulative, just to
Understood.
ground myself.
And that's where I wanted to get you to also.
Yep.
So this new Hyundai sign is approximately 21 square feet.
Yeah,
Let's go to the next sign that we'll call the new Hyundai directional sign. Is that shown on the plans?
That is not shown on the plans.
Okay, where will that be located?
That will be located directly behind the display pad. There's a note that says underground vaults is to the left of that, and there's an existing and administratively approved sign in that exact location right now.
And that was the directional sign that Mr. Vaccarella testified to, that was administratively approved. That will replace it in that exact location, correct?
Correct.
And the square,
If you wanted to go back to to the July 3rd letter that included some photographs, that existing directional sign shows up under photo number 2.
You know what? I think if you turn to page 4 of your sign package, I think the directional sign is shown on that.
yeah.
Yes, the new one, the existing administrative one shows up in the photograph number 1 from the July 3rd letter. That's the location it will be.
Yeah, but the square footage is 9.79, correct?
Correct.
correct. Of
That's,
the proposed, not the existing.
That sign gonna be repositioned elsewhere on the site?
no,
Sorry, Jackie, I said if the existing administratively approved sign is going to be repositioned elsewhere on the site, and he said no.
Okay, so just for the record, and for the board members' edification, the size of that new directional sign approximately?
9.79 square feet.
My question on the signage thing. Let's assume the board would say, yeah, we want to approve the signage stuff. What do you have in front of the board for them to approve that shows this new directional sign you're talking about, other than the sign package that wasn't submitted 10 days before the hearing?
Yes, it was.
The sign package what?
Yes, it's just not in color. Yes.
Okay, and you have an elevation anywhere showing that directional sign, like a picture of the proposed directional sign?
It's on the same page as the pylon sign. It's on the left side of that.
Okay. Now I understand. Okay. Right, exact location of sign to be determined. It says in red.
This is the Hyundai package.
I understand, I'm just saying,
Okay.
assuming they
Understood.
wanted to approve this,
Understood. If we look at then page 4 of that same package, it shows the approximate location of the directional sign.
Well, I would recommend for documentation purposes that should the board approve the sign package, if the site plan be amended to show the sign locations and the exact square footage of the signs, I think there should be one site plan that shows all of the signs.
I would agree with that. And also the sign company will have to be coming in for a sign permit as the
I
next step.
understand that, but they're gonna, if someone applies for a sign permit, it's then,
It's referred,
It's
it's compared against the approved site plan.
Right.
And there's almost always issues when it comes to that, so we
Right.
want to be clear on the site.
right,
plan.
if it's not, if they grant an approval and it's not on a site plan, chaos ensues.
We can most
Right.
definitely do that.
And along with any sign permit, an additional copy will have to be supplied.
I have one more question.
Certainly.
Is this existing sign correct?
The bottom left corner, that is the existing pylon sign that will be removed.
And the height and width of this sign, is it the same as that existing or is it different?
I don't have the dimensions of the existing sign.
Even not the height?
He said no.
don't have the dimensions of the
No.
existing sign.
Okay.
All right, so let's move on to the Car Star sign. Can you show that location on the plan that's on the screen right now?
Yes,
Proposed location?
it is directly in front of the CarStar building to the left of the exit driveway.
Okay, and is that also shown on the exhibits that the board is looking at, page 1?
Yes,
Is that the proposed, correct?
yes,
That is the proposed Car Star sign. And the approximate size of that?
48.6 square feet.
Okay, so the total approximate square footage, according to the ordinance calculations of the proposed signage, is approximately what?
I said 48, it was 48.85, which gives you a total square footage of signage of 79.64.
That's the total of the proposed pylon signs.
Yes,
The locations of these signs, will they all be in front of the existing principal buildings?
the CarStar one is, the Hyundai one is not directly in front of that building. It's on the other side of the driveway from it.
Well, let me rephrase. Are they, if we're orienting ourselves to Route 202-31, and that is considered, and the, strike that. Are the signs located between the existing buildings and the highway?
Yes,
Okay, so maybe not directly in front of each building, but they are located in front as it relates to the highway.
correct,
They're
yes,
not behind the buildings, they're in front of the building.
correct.
And are you aware that there's a provision of the township's ordinances that do not allow for structures to be located in front of principal buildings?
Yes,
What is the, do you know the front yard setback requirements for the B2 zone? I think that's on your plans.
it's on my plan.
I think it's on page 1.
The building setback 75.
Okay. Are these structures, signs located within that 75-foot front yard setback?
Yes,
All right, so then we'll go to the last, unless anyone has any other questions with regard to signage, let's go to the last component of this approval.
I just want to clarify one thing.
Please.
That I just had a question or a comment, and you clarified it as regards to the setback of the signage correlating to area. They are complied with. There's a table in the zoning code book that correlates area with setbacks to the right of way, and they are compliant with what they're proposing. So no additional variance.
No additional variance is required for the fact that it's in the front yard. Okay, thank you.
Not the signage, and there's the setback pertaining to signage is compliant.
What variances do they need for the signage?
For only one. One sign is permitted per lot, and they're proposing 2.
There's 3 signs, not 2. There's a,
2 were previously approved.
listen,
Okay.
they're removing them all. They're removing all the signs. So the way I look at it, you don't have a section 68 grandfathering thing because you're totally destroying them. So you're starting from scratch.
So 3 total signs, and there's no directional signage that will count as ground.
So the variance is for 2 additional signs.
Yes, that's correct.
But the size of the signs, or the square footage of the signs, the setbacks from the right of way are complied. This C variance with a number of ground signs. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And also in front of the principal building.
That-
No? That doesn't
that-
matter.
that-
Okay, I
that-
just want to make sure, that was involved in here somewhere. Just wanted to-
Correct. That's for the pad.
It's just, okay,
Because-
it wasn't clear.
Right, because signage is exempt from that. Signage tells you, depending on the size, how many feet back it can be. Again, not to beat a dead horse, but the proposed signage, they need one C variance to allow 3 instead of 1 ground mounted sign, correct?
All right, so then let's move to the last component, which will be the proposed, actually, we just dealt with the signage. Let's now go to the proposed, oh, you know what? Back up. Looking at item 10 of Mr. Becquerel's letter. Will any address identification be provided on either the Hyundai or the car store ground sign?
Not on those signs. No, they will just be the Hyundai name or Fred Bean's name, et cetera.
And
Where will the address identification be?
I didn't hear that.
The address identification, I just had a question about where it's going to be placed.
It's on the building. Right?
Not, you have 1, 3, 4, which reflects all the building signage. You don't see the address there. Is the address up there now, or is it being proposed?
is there address on the existing car store sign?
Are you gonna have like the address over the main?
Isn't it
entry
above the
doors?
door? In the second,
That's,
It's on the old sign.
that's the old one.
It's on the old sign.
no,
But the door.
no, the door,
Oh, the door.
the door.
No, it'll be the door in the old sign.
Is that the door?
Over
On the glass.
Is that an address there?
I'm asking.
Oh. There's one building number.
I don't know.
Tony, is it above the door?
Yeah. Usually are.
Okay, so is the address either gonna remain above the door or be placed above the door?
Will be,
The address will be on the building above the door. It either exists there now or will be added there.
Jeff, I assume it's allowed to be there?
Yes.
Okay.
And that would apply to both buildings?
Yes.
And there's no requirement to put it on this sign.
No, no
There's no
requirement.
requirement, right? Yeah, that's what I thought.
all right, and any illumination of the proposed signage?
The two pylon signs, the Hyundai one and the Carstar one, are internally illuminated. The directional sign has no light, not illuminated.
And the lighting information that was provided to the board, are either one of them the lighting that will be provided in connection with the signage?
No,
Is there a depiction on any of the plans with regard to the proposed lighting of the signage?
no, it's all internal in the sign.
Yeah, but is there
No
like,
external
there's no
illumination.
cut sheet or something showing the internal lighting?
No,
There's no external lighting, just everything is internal.
I would,
What does the ordinance say about what you have to show or what the board has to approve, if anything? If they say, oh, it's gonna be internally lit, is that good enough? And then they could deal with it at the construction permit?
Well, then the one thing I was just gonna add, I had one more question. Are they photo cell operational? Is that how the internal illumination?
they will be set up, yes. That way.
photo cell? They're not going to be on a timer?
No,
There will, I can provide additional testimony. There can also be a timer on the inside of the building. If that is what the board prefers.
What does the ordinance say? Can they leave this on 24/7 or the solar cell, we turn them on when it gets dark and turn them off when it gets light?
We usually,
Typically, that's the procedure, that it would be turned off at night.
right, we usually request that signage goes off around 11 o'clock at night.
But put it this way, if you have a solar cell, your light's gonna go off when it gets dark. Is the place open after dark in the winter?
Well, I can provide additional
Well,
testimony.
put it this way, if
It's
the
going to be open
facility.
after 4 o'clock in the winter time, yes.
Right, so you probably don't want it on a solar cell, you probably want it on,
we're saying a photo cell, so that will be on dusk to dawn.
There will be both. But there will be the option for also the timer to be implemented during the winter months where
I have a suggestion, if it's 9 o'clock, you're obviously not finishing. So at this point, if you haven't even talked about that, you guys gotta go. Second application. You can stick around, maybe it won't take an hour, because they have a very limited issue. But it seems to me if you are coming back.
I'm not getting any of this.
It seems to me, if you are gonna come back, that before you come back, you might as well put all the signage on the site plan now, so to make it easier for them to see what is being requested of them to approve, but also get some type of detail for the interior signage lighting, because you're gonna need a detail when you go to try to get a construction permit, assuming they approve it in any event, and then iron out the details with whether it's a timer, a photo cell, or whatever, so you have a proposal in front of them instead of, having a discussion about it.
Yeah, I would recommend controls and hours of operation for the lighting be shown on the site.
And John, just for my purposes, can I just be sure there's only A1 through 4? Those are the only marked exhibits we have, or were these marked?
No, we only
Okay.
have A1 through A4.
Okay,
So what we've been discussing as, because it was represented to me, this was submitted
yes.
into the board file.
Right,
Right,
these are just color.
correct. My other suggestion is resubmit this, put page numbers on it and submit them in color to the board. And that's what we're talking about, is the Fred Beans Hyundai sign package. We also have this CarStar Fred Beans sign package. And my suggestion is do the same with this. Put page numbers on it and submit it in color. Then we don't have to mark them as exhibits. And you know what sheet we're referring to and all that sort of stuff.
Okay, so just so it's clear, the recommendation with regard to the internal illumination would be both a timer and a photo cell.
Now, he says controls and hours of operation on the site plan. Right, so basically talk offline, have someone call him, or the both of them, and get their recommendations. Try to get that worked out ahead of time, so we're not doing like a live work session. Now, it's 9 o'clock, right? But I'll bet the board wants to hear, after this application, hopefully they'll be done before 10, because the board wants to hear something about this pad. You probably want to see if they have any questions about the pad that you can't answer tonight, so that when you come back, you can come back and finish, not.
I'd like to get through the canopy and the pad.
Yeah.
Those are the two things I have left.
All right.
Let me clear myself out of here.
So, first of all, let's find out, well, let's wait until we do the other application. Correct. All right, so this is gonna, so, Mr. Chairman, you just want to temporarily adjourn them And at the end of the next application, you either make an announcement that they're being adjourned to another date, or you pick it up and see how much further you can go. Is that correct?
Yes. Okay, well, let me call the fourth application.
Yeah.
Okay, our fourth
Yeah, we'll see how far
application
we can get.
for tonight is BOA case number 10-2023. The applicant is Flemington Fuels LLC. The location is 339 Highway 31. The application is an interpretation of a non-conforming use.
Will everybody please use the microphone? I'm having a hard time tonight hearing you.
Who are you speaking to, Jackie? Me?
Everybody.
Okay,
Everybody.
thank you. Jackie, a lot of us have been leaning over architectural drawings, and it's hard to be close to the microphone. So we do not have those kinds of drawings now. So we should be better with the mics. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Good evening, Counselor.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board, Attorney Robert Pope from White House, New Jersey, on behalf of Flemington Fuel LLC, the recent purchaser of 339 Route 31 here in Raritan Township. Here for a determination of pre-existing non-conforming use. We have a gas station and dwelling on one property, two principal uses on one unsubdivided lot, and the gas station. Gas station being a non-conforming use in the residential zone.
I'm not hearing you, please. Speak up.
Could you bring the microphone closer? There you go.
Okay. Attorneys love the sound of their own voice. I should be better at this. Okay, often when we go to court, the judge will always ask you, do you want to submit on the papers or do you want a hearing? Do you want to testify? The first half of our case this evening will be basically on the papers. And those were those papers that were submitted with the application, the exhibits. And I would like to just recite those. Mr. Drill will tell you that the documents speak for themselves. It's for the board to view them and weigh their credibility. They're all public documents that were obtained under the Open Public Records Act from this building. The tax assessor, the tax collector, the construction code official, Mr. Vaccarella, and Ms. Vaughn were always very kind in providing all the documents to me.
Right, and I can say that the board can take judicial notice of all these documents that are attached to the application for the certification of a non-conforming use, and it's exhibit attachment 1 through what, Mr. Bill?
1 through 7 were submitted with the application. Number 8 was submitted by PDF after receiving Mr. Vaccarella's
PDF is?
PDF.
I do have hard copies of his exhibit that was not included with everybody's application.
Okay, so the application I have has up to attachment 7 with it. So what is number 8?
Number 8 is a deed from 1951 to Mr. and Mrs. Barone.
Okay, we're going to have the board secretary hand that out.
So, that was added after receiving Mr. Vaccarella's memorandum on the application, noting that 1957, I believe, was the advent of zoning in Raritan Township. So we're going to try and present everything in chronological order, or relatively close chronological order here, because all the dates are important as we proceed. So if you look at number 1 and number 2, they are your current tax collector and tax assessor's records. And they both show that the property is occupied by a gas station and a dwelling. Number 3 is we've attended to, exhibits were put together in order that I received them, but this will be addressed later in our presentation, is an administrative consent order issued by the Department of Environmental Protection in January of this year, ordering that the tanks be removed and replaced on the site. You see from the findings, apparently the DEP inspected the property in June and December of 2022. It was before our ownership. And the bottom line was by December 31st of this year, we have to have the tanks replaced, which is sort of the reason for our urgency in being here tonight. It's very hot tonight. December 31st is going to be upon us before we know it. And we have to comply with the DEP. And even though this was entered into by our predecessor, we inherited it when we purchased the property. Exhibit number 4.
Hold up. So what's the purpose of attachment 3 then? What do you want? I understand attachment 1 and 2. You're saying these are township records that show there's a dwelling and a gas station and it was built in 1940. I get it. What do you want the board to glean from attachment 3?
Why are you not currently pumping gas in? Well, we had our tanks closed. We have to pull them and replace them.
Okay, so attachment 3 is to show that you haven't abandoned the use. There's a reason that it's not being currently used.
Correct.
Okay.
Attachment number 4 are relatively current photographs of the property, just so that everybody has a sense. In layman's terms, we're across the street from Stop and Shop on Route 31. Probably most of the members of the board are familiar with the site and that stretch of the highway. The witnesses will testify to the accuracy of those recent photographs. Attachment number 5 are the oldest assessment records for the property, which go back to 1968. And again, they show that there's a gas station and a dwelling on the property. The date of the dwelling reaching back to 1940, according to the assessor's records at that time. You'll notice that the owners of the property in 1968 were Mr. and Mrs. Barone, and the deed was added to show that they were also the owners back in 1951. So they were the consistent owners right through that period.
But this deed, attachment 8, doesn't reflect that there was a gas station in the dwelling prior to 1957,
Just
right?
that they're the owners. And it's just the assessor's records that they're determining at this point.
So what's the difference between attachments 1 and 2 and attachment 5?
It's just that it's been carried forward to this day. The assessor and the tax collector still carry it as a dwelling and a gas station on the records from the earliest records, 1968, right to the current records.
Attachment 6.
Attachment 6 is a resolution of this board from 1983, when the apparently
Prior to my time.
not prior to
But
my
not by
time.
much.
In 1983, the then operator of the gas station, apparently his predecessor had taken the sign down, and because it was, even at that time, a pre-existing non-conforming use, needed a variance to put the gas station sign back up. And that variance was granted. And the number 1 itemized paragraph is, the premises have been in use as a gasoline service station for more than 30 years and constitute a valid pre-existing non-conforming use.
Well, that one's interesting because that one would say that it was in existence in 1953. Because if the resolution was adopted in 1983 and used as a gasoline station, this the gasoline station is prior to 1957.
Yes, correct. As I say, the dates are very important here as we recite this. It says more than 30 years. It was found in the 1980s, which takes us back into the 1950s. Exhibit number 7 are from your construction code office. And they just show the gasoline station sign being replaced in 2022. Gasoline tanks themselves being replaced back in 1983, and other pump islands replaced in 72, and signs in 1972 and 1983. So nothing surreptitious has been going on the site during this entire time. That's basically the documentary evidence. The next half of the case will be our witnesses. And so I guess I'd ask Mr. Drill then again with men.
What exactly are you looking to the board to say?
If this has been a gas station, a dwelling, continuous use, since probably the 1940s to today.
Okay, let me ask you.
Transition in
What-
1957.
Okay, what do you need any witnesses for? If the board's satisfied with these documents, that a dwelling's been there and a gas station's been there since 1940, I'm not putting words in your mouth. I'm saying if the board is satisfied with that, what's the purpose of, what are you gonna have the witnesses say? Or what are they gonna say?
It's been continuous. My next witness will take us for the next 33 years, from 1988 to December of 2021, operating the gas station there with personal knowledge of the site.
Is anyone in the public hearing this application? It's not related to the applicant anymore. Are you hearing? Because if someone was here and wanted to say that there was an abandonment, then you have witnesses. But again, unless the board wants to hear this, it seems to me that under the case law, whoever wants to say it's abandoned has the burden of proof, proving it's abandoned. I don't hear anyone out there saying it's been abandoned. Any board members have any questions about abandonment?
Yeah, I do.
Okay,
I drive by that site on almost a weekly basis. My recollection is that I have not seen that in use for probably the last 2 or 3 years. What evidence do you have to show that that has been in continuous use from, say, 2020 up to the present date?
before you answer this, let me just give some legal advice on this. Abandonment legally, we need two things: intent to abandon and not only intent, but something physical to show that we no longer using the use. Are the tanks still in the ground? Today, yes. Are the dispensers still above ground? Yes. I'm going to show you the case law, but if the tanks are in the ground, the dispensers are still there. And I guess you put on one witness, whoever the current owner is, to say that he doesn't intend to abandon it. That the mere non-use, they used to say there's only one case that says mere non-use was the equivalent of abandonment, but that was like 7 years. I just want to find. I'm going to keep the board legally. The board has the power pursuant to NJSA 40:55D-68. That's what they're applying under, to certify that a non-conforming use or structure may be continued upon the lot or in the structure so occupied, if the use or structure existed before the adoption of an ordinance which rendered the use or structure non-conforming. If the board is satisfied that based on the documents that he got from the township, show that the gas station and the dwelling were created in 1940, and the board can take judicial notice that the first ordinance was adopted in 1957, that means, at least for the first part, that there was a lawfully created pre-existing non-conforming use, because there was no ordinance even in adoption, even that had been enacted, that said you couldn't have a gas station. Now, our courts have held that where there has been a lawfully created pre-existing non-conforming use, the use is entitled to continue on the property. But there can be a claim that the non-conforming use, I'm just reading from my crib sheets. I have crib sheets on all the relief that the Board of Adjustment could grant, the planning board could grant, it's all up on my website. They keep them all, but this, it makes it easy. So if there's a claim that a non-conforming use or structure has been abandoned, there's the traditional or so-called subjective test for abandonment, which established by our courts, which requires two things. One, an intent to abandon, and two, some overt act or failure to act which carries a sufficient implication that the owner does no longer claim to retain any interest in maintaining the non-conforming use or structure. That happens to be a gas station case, S&S Auto versus Stratford Zoning Board of Adjustment in 2004. But as I said before, whoever comes forward, which is generally an objector, but it could be a board member, then the person challenging it has the burden of proof. In other words, the applicant doesn't have the burden of proving that you didn't abandon. The burden of proof is to show that it was abandoned. Now, S&S Auto Sales said the mere passage of time during a cessation of active use does not constitute abandonment. Like I said, it's one case. The thing wasn't used for 7 years. That's the only case in the state of New Jersey, the published case, which says that the cessation of use because it was using a field for a certain purpose. So there was no structure that could be removed. Here, following this gas station case, the fact that it hasn't been used since, if you say you haven't seen it used since when?
2020, 2021.
Now 2023, 2 years, my legal opinion, not abandoned.
So a physical abandonment might be if he didn't take care of the property and it was all overgrown.
If he took the tank, if he took the dispensers out, or he took the tank out.
Okay.
What, or if he took the house down. Now, we can talk about that. Let's talk about the gas station first. It's easy.
Okay, then let me read you the findings in the letter from NJDEP.
Okay.
Item number 4, as the result of a standard compliance inspection and a follow-up compliance review conducted on June 30, 2022 and December 30, 2022, the department has determined that, and I'm not even going to read all of that, failed to comply with applicable requirements as follows.
Okay, what paragraph are you in?
Okay, this is the first page, item number 4 under findings.
Let's get there. Got it.
Failure to comply.
Right, they didn't register the underground tank. They introduced a hazardous substance. They did a bunch of things. Okay.
Second question I have is, was there a for sale sign ever listed on the property?
Okay, let's get everyone sworn at this point. Okay. Whoever's going to testify, can you please stand up, raise your right hand, including the board experts? Mr. Jennifer, a new board member. Board experts, they get sworn in multiple times. Some of the other attorneys swear in once during the meeting, but some attorneys made swearing at the organizational meeting. I'm very conservative when it comes to this stuff. I don't want anyone being making a claim that the board relied on the information where they weren't sworn in. So, do the 4 of you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay. So now let's start down here, right into the microphone. State your name, spell your last name, and give your relationship to the applicant or the property owner, as the case may be.
My name is Nishan Tyagi. Last name is Tyagi.
Too fast.
I'm sorry. Nishan Tyagi, Tyagi, and I'm a
Can you spell your first name for me?
Nishant.
Okay, and your relationship to the applicant is?
I'm a managing member of the LLC.
You're a managing member of the LLC. I'm going to ask Mr. Boat, is the LLC the applicant here? Okay, next.
Bill Koval, Koval. I'm a former operator of the gas station.
Mark Cherniak, board engineer.
Jeff Beccarella, township planner.
first, but then the dwelling question is a little bit of a different animal. Or, gas station question.
You had a question, Trevor?
Well, I did, I gave it. I cited number 4 on page 1 under the findings, which essentially said that the tanks failed to comply. It would seem to me if you were going to continue the use, you would have at least kept the tanks in compliance. Also, I asked the question about whether or not there was a sale sign on the property.
Yes, Mr. I need to the microphone.
There was a for sale sign. It was on and off. This property has been for sale since I've seen it, at least since 2017. It's gone through a bunch of different brokers. We purchased the property directly from the owners. We've had previous dealings with them. So we didn't go through a broker, but it's been for sale for at least 5 years. And Bill can probably tell even more because he was on site running the gas station since, the last 30 years. As for the tanks,
So just follow, when did you purchase it?
2 months ago. And
Mr. Tiagi, how long were you negotiating with Lehigh Gas to purchase this station?
almost 2 years. They have about 700 stations. So these smaller sites are a drop in the bucket for them. So they don't really move very fast. So it just takes time. So we started this process back in August of 2021. While Bill was still running the place. He was on a month-to-month lease. And then it came to our attention that the tanks need replacement. They're past their useful life, which is when I went to see Jeff to get a permit for tank replacement. And he said, well,
And when was that?
2 months ago,
2 months.
in May, right after our closing, I knew that the tanks needed to be replaced. So we wanted to do it the right way, replace them with modern double wall fiberglass tanks. And when I went there, Jeff said, well, this is a non-conforming use, so you have to go in front of the board to get their approval before construction can give you any permits to do anything on site, which is why Mr. Volk filed the application last month or end of May, maybe. Anything else?
There's nothing else on the gas station, on the dwelling.
Is it just a gas station, or is there any retail sales or any accessory use or any additional use to?
In other words, are you going to try to have some kind of mini mart or some accessory sales of food or products?
Some small convenience items in the store that were there before.
Yeah, but, so that's going to happen. We're going to have to then have proof. It's one thing, you have proof there was a gas station since 1940.
Mhm.
You're going to need proof that they had retail sales when it was permitted. So you may have this other witness.
Very little. Bill was the operator there for 32 years. Okay, I'll let you know.
Identify yourself and how long were you the operator? What year to what year?
I'm William Koval. I operated from 1988 to William Koval. I operated the gas station from 1988 to December 31st, 2021.
I'm not hearing this at all.
Very little.
Did you have food sales or convenience sales at the gas station?
No, nothing to speak of.
Did you operate on a repair shop inside the gas station as part of your business?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so you did repairs as well as pumping gas?
Pumping gas.
Okay, thank you.
So as to any food or convenience, you're going to need a use variance for that, because that's not, assuming that the board determines that the gas station was a lawfully created pre-existing non-conforming use, it's not going to include any retail sales of food, convenience items, or anything like that.
Are you intending to run a repair shop in addition to pumping gas?
I wouldn't run it myself. I'd fix up that building. It's a bit of an eyesore right now, and then probably try to rent out the bays to a mechanic that knows their way around cars. I don't.
Yep, but what he means is, when he says, "Are you planning?" He doesn't mean, "Are you physically going to repair?"
Oh, yeah,
cars?"
yes.
He means, "Are you planning on having repairs done at the facility.
Right, yes.
But you yourself will not be doing that work.
I'm not a certified
Okay,
mechanic. No, I
you're
will
going to
not.
be basically subcontracting to somebody else
Right.
to rent your bays to do repairs.
Rent them, or if I could find a decent mechanic that I can trust that I could run the shop, then I do that. But the gas itself, I'd be running myself. I'd be hiring employees. I'd be managing it, running the day-to-day operations for the fuel portion of it.
The questions?
So,
Go ahead,
What-
Randy.
How many pumps are you gonna have?
Randy, louder into that microphone.
How many pumps are you gonna have at the station?
3, just like they are now.
Are the tanks going to be the same size as the existing tanks that are there now?
We haven't gotten that far with the tank
Okay.
sizing. It depends on availability. Tanks take, right now, I've been told they take 40 to 50 weeks from when you order them,
That's what I
which is what,
understand.
which is why we wanted to get in front of the board so we can put it in order. So depending on the availability, it might be, it's hard to say what's going to be available when we place the order, depending on the vendor.
And even the DEP order grants you an extension under those circumstances.
Other
John,
questions?
you want to move to the house?
Yeah, you want to start?
Before we get to that, I just wanted to clarify one thing. They do replace the tanks. If that's going to require a D2 variance or C variance. Way the ordinance reads that no non-conforming structure or use shall be enlarged, extended, reconstructed.
I'm not hearing it.
Jackie, I'm reading from section 296-180, regulation of nonconforming structures and uses. It states no nonconforming structure or use shall be enlarged, extended, reconstructed, substituted, or structurally altered, except when changed to a conforming use or when required to do so by law as follows.
So the problem here is the same as that prior application. Once you take down the signs, it's a total destruction. So if you want to replace those tanks, I think Jeff might be right. To continue, unless you want to challenge the ordinance,
With the tagline, except as required by law. That's the DEP order, right?
I'm just going to ask you to repeat that.
It says, except as required by law in your statute. We're required by law. The DEP order is in the application.
Says when required to do so by law as follows. Then there's an A, B, and C. B is normal maintenance, repair, or alteration is permitted, provided it doesn't extend or expand the non-conforming use of structure beyond what existed prior to. So the chairman's question about tank size, it would seem that if you wanted to go under B, if the DEP requires it, tanks can't be any bigger than are there now, or you need a D1 variance. And C says expansion. The expansion of a pre-existing non-conforming use or structure may be permitted only upon an application for a variance from the zoning board of adjustments. Even if the tanks are required by law to be replaced, you can't have more than the number of tanks you have now, and they can't be any larger than the ones you have now. So if the board is satisfied with the proofs, they could give you a certification saying that you're entitled to continue it, provided if you replace the tanks. How many tanks are out there now?
3.
So if there's 3 tanks now,
4,000, 4,000, and the third one's 3,000.
Is that satisfactory for replacement?
You can make it work. Ideally, it would be a larger,
Louder.
sorry,
ideally, if there's a more volume storage, it helps with.
put it this way, you guys got to decide what you want to do. Under the ordinance, the most they could give you without a use variance is you can replace 3 tanks, no more than 3 tanks.
Right.
And 2 of them can't be greater than 4,000 gallons, and 1 of them can't be greater than 3,000 gallons.
Okay.
Now, if you want something more than that, you talk to Mr. Boak and you decide if you come back for a D1 use variance.
Would it be okay if we put one tank that's 11,000 gallons instead of doing,
Listen, according to the ordinance, no. But you can look at the ordinance also, but if you want something tonight, that's, if they're satisfied, that's what they can give you on the gas station, in my opinion. But they don't have to, they're the judge of the facts. I just give them legal advice.
that's fine. We can make that 4, 4, and 3 work.
Now, if you had one 11,000 gallon tank, that means you'd only be pumping one grade of gas.
Well,
Right.
you could split the tanks. You could get them compartmentalized. So it's one 11,000 gallon tank that you could be split up to 7,000, 4,000, or 6 and 5. But it's one tank, so it's
Put it this way, that'll be up to
That's-
the
yeah,
board.
no,
That's
that's fine.
factually for the board, in my opinion. But anything more in the gas station. So now, the house. If you walked in there, if I walked in there today,
yes.
walk me in, tell me what's on the first floor, what's on the second floor, tell me about the house.
It's just a ranch house. When you walk in through the front door, you walk into the living room. Directly behind the living room is a kitchen. If you make a right down the hallway, on your left, the first door is a bathroom, followed by 3 more bedrooms down the hallway.
Yes, I have. Yes. Yes. Yes.
I'm not hearing,
Jackie, what?
I'm not hearing this.
I asked him if he was at the house today. He said yes. I asked him if he walked inside. He said yes. And I asked him if what Mr. Tiagi testified to was accurate, and Jeff said,
Yes.
when was the last time someone lived in the house?
Someone's living in there currently. It's rented out.
But when did that person start renting?
Oh, just last week,
Right.
after our ownership.
Correct. Prior to last week, when was the last time the house was rented? Let's go back to Bill
Yeah.
Koval, who was the operator. Bill, from 1988 to December 31, 2021, did anyone live in the house?
Yes. People, the original people, the Barones that we spoke of, this gentleman spoke of earlier was there. Then an oil company bought it. And people moved in, maybe 5, 6 years out, couple in, couple out. The last time when we had that big storm where everything flooded, that was kind of the end of the rentals. The basement flooded so bad it ruined the heating system, and I guess they just decided not to rent it out, not to fix it or rent it out again.
Okay, could that have been Hurricane Ida, the Labor Day flood of 2021?
Yeah, I believe it was.
Just for the record, I drive that way every day to work. I haven't seen someone on that, parked in that driveway for at least 4 years.
They were there.
So let me ask you this.
I just want to add, I live in the area. I've never seen anybody in that house. So I don't want to say that seeing a car and seeing not a car. I've seen you,
Yeah.
okay? I don't think we should judge because you haven't seen it. I've been here 25 years and I've never seen any movement in that house. It's just the way it is.
So let me ask you this. When you say that the basement got flooded, what happened to the boiler?
It got destroyed.
Okay, so do you have a new boiler in the house now? Get the microphone.
Yes, we just replaced the hot water heater. Last week, we got permits for construction, new electrical panel, and we're doing a gas connection to do for Elizabethtown Gas to convert the heating over to natural gas, and that'll be done before winter time.
How do they get a CO to have someone in the house if they don't have a heating system?
There's baseboards there now, like electric baseboards, because the oil tanks were, I guess, the boilers went bad whenever that storm happened. But I got a CO from the fire official, Dennis Cochran.
Zoning does not issue CCOs for residential properties.
So
the residence, of course, is the conforming use of the property.
No, I understand, but the residence is a conforming use of the property. The gas station is the second use, and the gas station is the potentially lawfully created pre-existing non-conforming use. I have no other questions.
Mr. Tiagi, I want to go back to the question I asked before, and that is, are you thinking of hiring a mechanic who's going to work as an employee of yours? Or are you thinking of renting out the bays and somebody else is going to hang their shingle and be their own self-employed repair shop, as many gas stations do today?
We haven't gotten that far yet. The biggest thing right now is to get the gas station running. Sometimes it's best to leave the repair shop vacant just because, no offense, Bill, but repair shops, they have lots of cars and traffic and parking. And then the site turns pretty ugly because there's cars parked with hoods open, leaking oil. So if the right person came along, maybe, but that's not something I can commit to today, because if the station's doing well and it's busy, it might not be worth putting somebody in the shop, causing blockages, slowing down traffic, impeding the flow of fuel customers. So that sounds something, I'm not sure if we do that, depending on how busy the site is. It might be detrimental to the gas station business. And I'm sure you've noticed a lot of gas stations that do have repair shops, they leave them vacant just for that sole purpose, because there's cars parked all over the place. Customers are dropping stuff off. Tow trucks are in and out. Sometimes it hurts the business. The amount of money you might get in rent, you might end up losing on the other end, running your day-to-day business there.
Board professionals have anything else before the?
I just have just a few comments just to go over it. One, signage
Okay.
and everything. That's the ground sign's going to stand and you're just going to reface it.
Right. The box for the sign, the pedestal, the lighting for the sign will remain in the exact location it is now. We have to remove the Gulf logo because, sorry, we're not going to be selling Gulf fuel there. So we have to remove that. And the price sign, we replace it with a modern LED sign like every other gas station in town, instead of using the magnet stickers. But that's something that would stay in the same cabinet, and we get a permit from construction when the electrical work is done for that.
Yeah, it's zoning permits required first.
Okay, yeah, so I'll come to you first.
That and same with the fuel pumps, and then any additional signage on the building would have to conform with the ordinance.
Right, yes, we'll do that, whatever the ordinance is.
And just with outdoor storage, it's not permitted. Even I know it's too soon for you to tell anyone, but it's not going to be permitted as part of the use.
Okay, yeah, we don't plan on doing any
Actually, are you planning any site improvements? Are you planning on doing any improvements to the building? You said that it's an eyesore. What are you planning on doing to make it look better?
After the tanks are replaced, the pumps are in, the final step would be to spruce up the building, put some nice paint on it, seal coat the property, because the asphalt's pretty worn out. Just make it look nicer, paint all the metal poles that are rusting and have paint flaking off of them, and bring the gas station into the 21st century. Make it safer for the environment and make it, it's the first thing you see when you pull into Raritan Township when you're coming from Reddington, and it's not very nice. You have a nice Stop and Shop across the street. You have, all those apartments going in behind Health Quest over there. And then this is the first thing you see, so it needs to be spruced up. The house we've already painted and we're working on that.
So just so you know, the reason we're asking, if they do certify it, they're not certifying that you can do any exterior improvements. You're going to have to either apply for a site plan waiver or a minor site plan approval, probably even to replace the tanks. You're going to be doing concrete work. There's going to be, wherever the dispensers go, you're not going to have more than 3 of them, but you're going to just so you understand.
Right.
Yes.
That's normal maintenance.
Well, normal maintenance is not breaking up concrete and putting new concrete down.
Sure, we did it in 1983. Code inspector office.
That was 1983. The ordinance is different than it was in 1980. Put it this way, to replace the tanks, don't you have to break up all the concrete on the site?
They'd have to jackhammer the tank tops to get to them, and then they'd re-pour new tank tops with spill buckets to, if there was ever a spill.
Okay, when I see gas stations replacing their tanks, correct me if I'm wrong. I've seen them jackhammer out all the concrete, not just above where the tank is, excavate down, they put in, I'm not gonna call them pilings, to hold the earth back.
Yeah, it would be sheeting for the
Sheeting,
excavation.
it's sheeting for the excavation because you're not gonna have enough room to do an OSHA required slope.
Right.
So you're gonna be removing all the concrete on the site other than the building,
Well,
correct?
the extent of any excavation for a tank replacement would also involve any potential soil remediation that would be necessary. A lot of times you have old tanks that leak. So when tanks are removed as part of the DEP permit, they test the soil around the tank.
Mhm.
And if it was found that the tank had leaked and that there was a product that leached into the soil, then the surrounding soil, to the extent of any kind of contamination, would also have to be removed. So a lot of times when you see excavations at a gas station that are much larger than the tank removal, that's because there's soil remediation as part of the tank
Let me
replacement.
ask another question. You don't have a canopy there now, right?
No.
And you're not proposing to put a canopy in, correct?
No, I don't think the board would approve that today.
And how about site lighting?
There's lighting on site there.
Right.
There's some lighting on the building. There's two poles that are on the property.
Right, and all that stuff's gonna remain?
That's gonna remain. We keep the same location.
All I'm saying is, listen, just beware that, don't say you didn't know, but assuming that they certify you, if
Yes.
you go to apply for a construction permit
Okay.
to do this work, that they might very well tell you, you gotta go for a site plan approval first. Now, if they certify you, you can go to the planning board. You don't have to come back to the board. The only reason you'd have to come back to the Board of Adjustment for any site plan or site plan waiver would be if there's a D variance involved.
Okay.
But don't be surprised.
Okay.
So if you guys don't have any other questions, you can kick around what you want to do.
Well, before that, I just want to make sure that the entire board understands exactly what we're being asked. And if I'm not mistaken, what we're being asked is to interpret the non-conforming use. In other words, is it a pre-existing non-conforming use?
Is it
So
a
the question-
lawfully created, pre-existing, non-conforming use entitled to continue?
Correct.
That's what you're being asked.
Right. It has nothing to do with the house at this point. It's just the gas
It's
station.
the gas station as a lawfully created, pre-existing, non-conforming use, which is now prohibited in the zone. And on top of that, it's now a second principal use. But again, if it was lawfully created, pre-existing, which you're the judge of the facts, I'm not. But if you accept the township documents that say the gas station was there in 1940 and the house was there in 1940, and you then say factually, yeah, it was lawfully created because they both were created prior to any ordinance being adopted. But you'd have conditions, if you went that way, in my opinion, matching the testimony. You could have no food sales, no retail sales, unless they have a D1 use variance, because that wasn't part of what was the lawfully created pre-existing non-conforming use. And then you have to decide what you want to do. 3 tanks, and you have 1 big tank, if it's sectioned off into pieces, and he has two 4,000 gallon tanks, 1 3,000 gallon tank. Is does the condition limit him to replacing 3 tanks, 2 no more than 4,000, 1 no more than 3,000, or can he put 1 big one in, partition it up as long as the big one is no greater than 11,000 gallons, which is the total of that. Condition that all other ordinance requirements apply, such as but not limited to no outdoor storage.
Okay, I have one more question of you, Mr. Drew.
Yeah.
And that is, I want your interpretation or your legal opinion, excuse me, regarding whether or not this use was abandoned during the period of time. Based on what I heard you saying, it seemed to me that you were implying to us that this was not an abandonment.
I will be very clear about it. In my opinion, if you guys find it was a lawfully created pre-existing non-conforming use, in my opinion, it has not been abandoned under New Jersey case law.
That makes it
Very
very helpful.
Excuse me, I have a couple questions.
Yeah.
How large piece of land is this, are these buildings situated?
10.
4.5 acres.
What?
4.5 acres, he said.
I thought it was
1.5
10.
acres.
I thought it was 10.
That was the previous application. The previous application was 10 acres. This one is 4.5 acres.
It's 4.49.
My other question is, why the sudden reinterest in going into pumping gasoline? And is between the gas business, the house rental, and the rental of the garages for mechanic work, how financially viable is this thing? You still got property tax to deal with amongst everything else. I'm just curious, has that anybody thought about that?
We're all gonna be driving electric cars in 10 years.
We're in the gas business now. We know the volume. We have an idea what the volume will be. There's a lot of development in Raritan Township, lots of condos, townhouses, big apartment buildings, where, as far as I can tell, there's not very many electric car charging stations. So even if electric cars take off in the future, I think there's gonna be a lot of people driving around with their old gas cars still. And if you just look at the amount of development in the last 5 years in Raritan Township, and there hasn't been any new gas stations that have opened. And just in that corridor there between Walter Foran and where Raritan Township starts, there's lots of new buildings going up with lots of new cars and new people driving through. So I think there's a lot of volume that drives by, and a small subset of that is electric. Most of it is gas or diesel trucks or cars that drive by.
Is your intention to affiliate with a nationally recognized company, Texaco, Chevron, or are you going to have an unbranded?
We'd start off as unbranded. A lot of the bigger companies, they want to see what volume we're doing before they'll entertain putting their name on the place. They don't want, you have to sign a 10-year contract with them. They don't want to sign a 10-year contract with something that will, might not survive, and it makes their brand look bad if they image a station and it doesn't survive. So usually you start unbranded, and then if the volume's there, you can switch over. I can't say if we'd be able to switch over, or if they'd be interested, one of the larger companies.
John, before we close, I see that we have 2 people sitting in the back. Do you have?
That's my brother and my mother.
All right, thank you.
They're friendlies.
Yes.
No objection there.
Other questions before we close the delivery?
Yeah, I just want to ask one question. Within a radius of 5 or 6 miles, do you know how many gas stations you have in this area?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Within a radius of 5 to 6 miles, do you know how many gas stations you have in this area?
Within 5 to 6 miles of this location?
Yeah, all the way around.
5 or 6 gas stations, I think.
10 or 12.
More like 16, 14 or 16. We learned all about it when Wawa was gas station, convenience, whatever, down the block, down by the hospital.
Okay.
I'm not sure how many mom and pop operations are in existence anymore. Everybody seems to have a dozen or more pumps.
I know most of the, I don't personally know a lot of the owners of these gas stations, but I know who owns them. Most of them are branded as big names, Exxon or Shell, or Wawa is a different whole other animal, but a lot of the stations that are branded Exxon, Shell, Mobil, they're run by somebody that has 5 or 6 stations. It's not Exxon Mobil corporate running the site.
They're franchises.
They're franchises, and those guys don't, not all, some do, but not every single one of them has 60 or 70 stations. There's a lot of guys like us that have 1, 2, or 3 stations that are just running around running them themselves. We have one now. This would be a second location. And our intent is to, thrive and do well. I mean, so we're in the business, so we know how to run the place, and we don't want to spend all this money to not see us survive. So we'll be competitive and run a nice shop there.
Okay, we're going to close for deliberation. Who'd like to start? Remember what the question is. We're dealing with an interpretation of non-conforming use.
Right, again, based on the facts presented, both documents and testimony. Does the board believe that the gas station was a lawfully created pre-existing non-conforming use and a lawfully created pre-existing non-conforming second use on the property prior to the adoption of the township's first ordinance in 1957?
Okay, I'll start. Yes. That's it. I mean, the documentation is
Right.
there. Yes.
Yes, based on the document.
Counselor, I want to congratulate you. It was a very well done case, hard to argue against what you came up with. And I would agree. It seems to me quite clear that it was a gas station in 1940 and has been ever since. And according to Mr. Drill's interpretation, including the last 2 years. So yes, I also.
Meaning no abandonment.
No abandonment, correct.
And no abandonment is a matter of law, not a matter of fact.
Correct.
Who else is going?
I'll go. I got my driver's license in 1971. I lived in Raritan Township, and I passed that gas station all the time. And it was never, to me, abandonment means it's boarded up and locked up and no one around. So I agree that it's non-conforming.
I think that we have to comply with the law. Quite frankly, and the law says that you don't have an abandoned use. It is a pre-existing non-conforming use. My personal opinion is they're not gonna get any favors by us voting for this. That's my opinion.
He's wishing you well. He's saying he's following the law. He hopes you succeed. He has concerns, but he's following the law. That's what you're saying, Jim, right?
Yes.
Yes.
He agrees.
It is yes. John, I have a question for you about the tanks.
Yeah, so that's what I was gonna say. After you guys deliberating this, then I'm gonna come back at you and say, okay, what do you want to do with the conditions? But why don't you first?
Yes, this is yes.
Okay, so now here's the question. Why don't you guys do a straw poll yourselves and talk about what do you want to do about the tanks? The ordinance says, Jeff read it, ordinance section 296-180. And if it weren't for the fact that the DEP says they have to replace those tanks, because they're going to replace them, game would be over. Because under section 68, the same section that they're seeking the certification, that section says if you have a total destruction, it's no longer grandfathered. But the ordinance that you have to follow says that if it's required by law, then it's not a total destruction if they can't expand it beyond what's there now. So the factual question for the board, this is not a legal question for me, is factually you could say you're going to go literally, there's 3 tanks now, so they can't have more than 3 tanks. They want to have less, that's their business. The gallonage, you could say that they can't have more than 3 tanks, and 2 of them can't be more than 4,000 gallon capacity, and 1 of them can't be more than 3,000 gallon capacity. Or you could say they can't have more than 3 tanks, and they can't have more than 11,000 gallons of capacity. I don't have a legal opinion on this.
I want to give them as much flexibility as possible. I want this, again, we try to succeed, we try to give opportunities here.
So what you're saying is no more than 3 tanks, no more than 11,000 gallons.
Right, and if they can do it in 1 tank, To me, one tank is better environmentally, so I'm trying to give them flexibility. That's what I would do.
And Damji?
I would agree totally with that.
Aaron's?
Mark, does it make any difference from a construction point of view?
It could, one tank could be more economical than three individual tanks, less maintenance, less issues. So I think if the board would decide that they would cap it at a maximum of 3 and a maximum of 11,000 gallons, if they determine that doesn't constitute an expansion, then I think you could leave it up to the applicant to decide what's most economical.
No, I would agree that, but with the limitation of 11,000 gallons.
No more than 3, no more than
Correct.
11,000 gallons
Yes.
capacity total. Randy?
Correct.
I agree.
Jim?
Yes.
Lindsay?
And by the way, Jeff, how close is 7-Eleven to opening their gas station that we?
Ask them after. Ask them after.
No, I know, but I mean, they're still digging it up.
No,
No,
it's
it's done.
finished. The pumps are in, the canopy is up.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
My only comment is the placement of it, whether or not an as-built survey would be.
Yeah. If you were asking me. This is a certification.
Yeah.
For them to do the work, I believe that they need either a site plan approval or a waiver of site.
Do the
Correct.
Do the work.
And that's in the resolution.
You know what? Yeah, put in the resolution. Doesn't have to come to this board, because you run the planning board, we don't need to do variance. But if they give you a certification, you stay within the confines of that, you go to the planning board, you take from the waiver, you minor site plan. But in my opinion, I don't see how you can do any site work on that site without site plan.
Unless it's maintenance, which is replacing the tanks. And anything that deviates from what's there now would be an expansion.
Normal maintenance. It's not normal maintenance.
It sure is. You replace tanks periodically.
Well, this ordinance doesn't say that normal maintenance doesn't need site plan approval. The ordinance says for normal maintenance, you can go for a site plan waiver. That's what you do. Just because you have normal maintenance doesn't mean you're exempt from site plan. It means you don't need preliminary site plan approval. You may need minor, because if you just replacing tanks and not doing the rest of the site work, you might be able to get away with the site plan waiver. That's just a new thing. The resolution is going to say that you either need site plan approval or site plan waiver to be determined by whichever board you apply.
I'd say basically any deviation from what's there now would be an expansion of a non-conforming use, which you can read back to this board.
Correct.
And there's not a lot of wiggle around doing something different than
Yeah.
it's there now.
That's what you decide. But my opinion to the board is you should put in conditions of it, no question about it. So you either need site plan, either need site plan approval or a regular site plan before the. Anyone on the board disagree? So we want to make a motion now to certify as we've discussed with the conditions that we've discussed.
I'll make a motion.
I second it.
Roll call?
Chairman, Mr. Roger Aaron's.
Yes.
Vice Chairwoman, Ms. Cynthia Schaefer.
Yes.
Mr. Randy Block,
Yes.
Mr. Jim Ferrero,
Yes.
Vice Chair Pro Tem, Ms. Russell Domji,
Yes.
Ms. Lindsay Cool. Yes.
Okay. Good luck, Mr. Tiagi.
Thank you.
Okay, it's 5 minutes after
Yeah,
10.
let's quickly get the other applicant in here and pick a
Yep.
date, unless you guys feel like working late tonight.
Nope.
My Thursday, I'll be up.
Yeah. Yeah. That'd be first no. Just gonna do it 1 o'clock.
And stretch. And stretch.
Huh?
Taylor, what kind of dates do you have for these guys?
September.
So, mean to step in your line of sight.
Mr. Chairman, you want to call this application back? We gotta pick a date. We continue.
Yes. Okay, we're BOA case 15-2022, Penn Partners, location block 71, lots 8 and 8.01. And it is a D variance for expansion of carport and C variance relief.
Right. Carport, the vehicle display pad, and the signage.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, so it's now 10:05 and the board knocks off at 10. So this is going to be continued. So Taylor, what date do we have for continuation?
We don't have any availabilities until starting September 7th and further on.
So is there anything on the September 7th agenda right now?
Yes.
What's on the September 7th agenda?
Technically, we don't have a letter written, but the competent canine is likely going to be there.
Okay, but this would be, is that their
second?
That's second
their
hearing.
second hearing session, so they would have priority over this one. What's the second September date?
Did they have a lunch? Did they have a lunch?
21st.
But wait,
Hey, John, they did not have a lot to
they
finish
they had
up.
a lot to come back to.
They have revised plans and I don't even have them yet.
Okay.
Okay.
And they're scheduled for the 20th.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry.
what's on the August 3rd or 17th?
Okay, so August 3rd, we have Pooley, we have Five Birds Farm, and we have that other residential application, but he has not
hasn't
reached
confirmed,
back.
So Pooley
And
and
I just want to note that John will not be here. I'm not sure if that's your preference, but John is not going to be here
On which,
on August 3rd.
What day?
Thursday.
Thursday?
Yeah.
Thursday. I'm not gonna be here on August 3, I'm not going to be here on August 17.
Both dates?
Yeah, but we love Joe.
what's the 17th?
The 17th is the Pastrana case and maybe the Catherine Jankowski. That's the
Yeah,
only,
Jankowski hasn't submitted any.
they
plans.
haven't submitted, but
That'd be very brief, would it not? Jankowski?
it's a minor subdivision with a D variance.
Jeff, lengthy?
It can be, yeah.
so two questions. I'm on vacation the 3rd, but if that's when the board can adjourn it to, I'll make arrangements to come back. I'll only be unsure.
I can't make it come back.
I know where you're going. But you're still having meetings that,
Oh, yeah.
okay, so someone will be in your stead. So the 17th, I guess it sounds like whatever schedule for the 17th is a little more
The-
lengthy.
And September 7th, sounds like there's nothing. You can almost have the rest of the meeting. August 17th.
August 17th, I don't know if you want to talk to Bob, because I did offer it to Bob. I don't know what he's gonna do.
Well, look at,
Yeah,
Oh, so the 17th.
so the 17th could either be you guys or the competent canine.
Yeah, that's your partner.
Yeah.
okay,
So
but
he thought he was on the 7th,
Yeah, he doesn't.
September 7th.
Well, oh shit, that's right.
17th
Yeah,
is
he's on-
Jankowski,
Yeah,
and Jankowski hasn't submitted yet, so I think this would take priority over it.
so the
That's what I
17th,
was thinking, that's where I was going.
They haven't submitted yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Their hearing hasn't started.
Absolutely.
They have priority.
so what does priority mean? Just that they go first? If we still have 3 applicants, it's still an hour for each.
Well, that's up to the chair. What the chair has done in the past.
Right.
Yep.
But he has to- The board rules are set up. The chair. If the board doesn't agree with it. They didn't put beforehand in any event, but ultimately, someone can make a motion to have them reversed. But generally, no one's ever done it. So, Roger, I think would use his discretion, you guys would use your discretion. And if this thing is close to getting done, like tonight, he let them go more than half. He figured this other case wasn't gonna go more than an hour, it was exactly an hour.
I think it's important, obviously, for everyone to understand what John's saying, but my architect's not a
Okay.
So it's good for you to have the background, but.
Okay.
You can
So
both, you
can I
can
just ask
both
a
come
random
back from the
question?
shore.
And I'm just asking this in general. I know we have 2 pending applications now. I think I've got 4 more scheduled or filed with you guys waiting. Are special meetings an option or no? Is that not something that the board would entertain at all?
This is a rough time. This is summer.
True.
And
True.
this board has had a meeting every 2 weeks without a break. And we have done a couple of special meetings
Roger, for how many years?
for about 2.5 or 3
2.5 to
years.
3 years, they've been meeting
Right.
twice a month. The MLUL says they only have to meet once a month. They've been meeting twice a month for 3 years.
This town's got to stop drawing all the development. I mean.
You're the one making the applications.
I don't want to say anything, but how many meetings does the planning board have?
Yeah,
They've
let's not
had
go there.
about 1 in the last 3 months.
Hence why I transfer applications over to the planning board whenever I can.
Yeah, we would encourage that.
I'm trying.
Like the last,
trying.
the other applications.
I
I'd
know.
like them to do it.
Let's see if we can settle on a date here. We'd like to get you
So it
in
sounds like
as
September
quickly as we
7th
can.
today, because the Confident Canine is going to be very short.
Okay.
Okay, so this matter is going to, the hearing in this matter is going to be continued to September
You
7th,
okay?
2023, 7 PM, even though K9 is going to be starting at 7 unless they are not ready. And then when is the board's time to decide this application expires?
October 13th.
October 13th?
Mhm.
So let's get an extension to November 30th. I always like to be 60 days ahead. You extend to November 30th?
Yep.
Okay. So continued without need for further notice to September 7th, and the applicant's going to send in a letter to Keller saying that they consent to extend the time the board has to act on the application till November 30th. That's everything.
Yep, okay. Perfect, and we will,
Bless
God
you.
bless you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you have
Thank
plenty of time now to revise the site plan, get all that other stuff that they
We'll
asked.
submit that, we'll put one set of exhibits together that you can put up here, that you guys will have one after the other. We'll take out whatever's unnecessary that you need to look at. We already have the answer to your question, we'll bring that back in testimony at the next hearing.
For that one, again, the biggest concern is safety.
Understood,
Right? So
Understood.
Whatever way you can explain that, that would be helpful.
understood. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Could
Good night.
I hear a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Sorry,
Aye.
Cynthia.
John, could I see you for a second?